And we're live. We're here. You're muted.
Not anymore. I'm not.
Not anymore. And we're logoless. What is happening? Hello, everyone. Contrary to there being no sign, welcome to Thursday Night There we go. Welcome to Thursday Night Generational Change. I'm Jen.
I'm Peter, and I'm still working through. I still haven't been able to figure out my Logitech, but I did find out that there is a customer service number, so I'm going to be working on that. And I've got my super duper microphone here. I got everything. And I literally got off the phone like 30 seconds before we went.
It's
live.
always the case.
It's like watching the count. Well, I know you. You're like looking at me like, "Yep, he's gonna do it. He's gonna cross the line." And he's going, "Oh,
you can't help yourself, but push it to the edge. Like you can't help yourself."
No, I do fly by the seat of my pants.
And that's great. It's when you want all of us to fly by the seats of our pants.
I don't expect. No, I do not expect.
Yes, you love it though. You want us all to just be like that, living in your chaos with you.
I think it's part of it's necessary, part of it's not. And it's not for everybody. I would never recommend anybody living the way that I live. That's not, it's not that I'm reckless or anything like that. I have kind of a helter-skelter way of going about life, and that's not for everybody.
No.
I can handle it, but
can handle it. Yes, you can handle it.
Yes,
so we have a lot of things. There's so many things.
There are a lot of things to cover. And we are going to be joined by a lady who she's one of the more unique people that I've known in politics, that we've known in politics. But I will always give Zeynab a lot of credit because she was one of your fiercest fighters to get nominated by brand new Congress when you were coming up in 2019. And those types of relationships are very far and few between in politics. The one thing we've learned over time is that most people, unfortunately, and I know we think it's a left problem, but the truth is this is a problem in all corners of politics. The reason why it stings more on the left politically is because the left doesn't have money and infrastructure. So when you're dealing with a lack of infrastructure and finances to begin with, you're wondering if people are going to let you down, and then where the hell do you go from there? You know, if somebody loses their job, okay, big deal. That's not the end of the world. So that's why these circumstances are very tenuous, and we do have to build these relationships. And so one of the things that I noticed, which you may have noticed as well, is that we did a clip the other day with Mike from PA, and we very tepidly criticized Kyle Kulinski, not even in a real critical way. Like we didn't even really criticize him. We just argued the point about whether.
And what happened? God, don't keep me in suspense because I'm not on social media.
You get people who literally jump on there like, you don't know what you're talking about. Kyle is perfect. And they're like, guys, if you think that you
can. It couldn't have been me talking in the video because I stopped watching Kyle like years ago already.
If you think you're going to survive this world by never being able to criticize people who absolutely 1000% are, I get criticized all the time. And I take it all with a grain of salt. No one is above this. And no one should be above this.
No, I stopped participating with him and following him when he started kind of shilling for Joe, and getting back into that, right, and getting back into the lesser of two evils thing, and just I just can't.
And never never misunderstand. I've pointed this out many a times before. It is very difficult. You know, we are hypercritical of the likes of Charlie Kirk. We're hypercritical of the likes of Ben Shapiro. We're hypercritical of the likes of David Pakman.
We're critical of people that are not being sincere and that are using their platform in some way that's, disingenuous and generally is just self-satisfying for them, right? So that's the types of things that we criticize.
That's what I'm talking about, David. Let me have it, brother.
No, he said you let him have it.
Oh, I'll let you have it. You better believe I'll let you have it. I'm not one of these people. You know, that's the thing. That's why it'll always be interesting if I ever do run for office, because I'm not going to turn into somebody who's going to be like, well, I don't want to offend any, but Mario, Super Mario.
I wanted to point this out because I noticed it came through at like 5. It came through a long time ago, and I appreciate it so much. Thank you, Chromium, if you're watching. And I also did see that he is now one of our $25 patrons.
Mario?
His name's not Mario. His name's Chromium. But anyway, I digress.
Chromium, accept the fact that I'm going to call you a Mario, and you can call me Luigi. That's the way that it is.
He does. I don't think he cares. But anyway,
I'm not going to turn into Luigi. Well, I don't think.
4chan. Yes. Having the courage to challenge what's her face Schultz, platforming my good friend Angelica, which he's talking to Angelica Duenas, highlighting my comments to Crystal Ball and Senator Nina Turner and Pedro. Hopefully,
I like how you knew that SNT was Senator Nina Turner without even a blink.
Yeah, and Pedro hopefully buying an Arnold mask. And yes, he has joined our Patreon. So thank you, Chromium. Appreciate that very much. And of course, who else is SNT?
Well, listen, I can't come on here and I can't give you the mask, but what I can do is I can give you the voice. So I just want to thank you for bringing all of the people together. That is our job. I also have to tell you, Jen, that the Gold's Gym, it is literally mine. We made it official.
The deal went through. Good.
It's going through. It's going through.
I'm just happy you're affiliated with a better quality gym than you've always worked out in since I've known you.
Well, don't misunderstand.
Because UFit is not great.
No, UFit is not great, but it worked for what I had where I was living.
Yes.
The gym that I belong to now is a lot better. It's got a lot of great equipment, including.
Isn't it a Gold?
No, it's not a Gold's. Gold's is in Destin. I am in Niceville. I am
that's right. You're in Niceville.
Nice.
That's like Pleasantville.
Nice. It is like, well, actually, I will say this. I will say that Seaside, Florida, which is a little west of Panama City, it's the town that the Truman Show was filmed in.
Yeah,
that is very much like Pleasantville. It's got that like movie set feel to it. Where
I can't handle it. I can't handle it. It makes me want to like vandalize something.
Well, because it's got that sort of like Desperate Housewives type of feel to it. Like this can't be
perfect.
Real.
Let me tell you something. I love nice, but there's got to be a little grit.
Well,
a little grit, or it doesn't.
The place that you would love in Seaside, without question, is the bookstore. They have a lovely bookstore that's been there for over 30 years. It's a family-owned place, and that's one of the things, guys. You know, the one thing
love the bookstore
that you will find, hopefully, in more affluent communities in this country. We don't know if it's that way everywhere, but Seaside is an affluent community, and they do care about their local small businesses. So most of the places that you will find in town are all mom and pop shops.
I love that. That's also that, you know what? That's the same in like places like Sanibel. It's the same in a lot of the red places. It is.
That's true. It is a red versus blue thing in that regard. I would definitely say that. You don't see it as much because even if you come, for example, a very affluent neighborhood not too far from where Jen lives is a place called Victoria Park in Fort Lauderdale. You do not see that there. Yeah, they have, kind of like an artsy community and that type of thing, and there is some affluence there. But in terms of the shops, it's just not the same. It doesn't register the same in those types of areas. You've got your barista shops and things like that. But in terms of those mom and pop like bookstores, there is this one bookstore. Do you remember the name of it, Jen? It's the place that's in Dania Beach. And it isn't in an affluent place, but it's this historic bookstore.
It's technically that's Fort Lauderdale. And it's called, I want to say it's called like the old bookstore or something, or like the antique bookstore, or I don't know. It's something just very basic, but yeah, it's amazing. People need to not go there on a weekend. Don't go there on the weekend.
So yesterday I met with a couple of clients who are hotel investors. Potential clients, so not official yet. I really like these guys.
Don't jinx it. You shouldn't be talking about it until it happens.
The only reason I'm talking about it is because you wouldn't have guessed it, hearing them talk, but they're from the UK. And it is a point of emphasis where you kind of want to get an idea from them. Well, what was your experience like growing up and having your formal education in the UK and what it was like coming to the United States? And they agreed wholeheartedly. It's two things that separate the UK from the United States: education and healthcare. Point blank, period.
Wouldn't you say that's pretty much any other Western, quote unquote, democratic state? I mean, we're the only ones.
We are. We definitely are the ones that stand above the rest. But it's always interesting when people who have made it here in the States can still look at it objectively and not from a affluent perspective. They could look at it and say, your formal education in the United States is bad.
Oh, every person that I have befriended over my adult life since moving back here with kids in the schools, and just every single person I have met who's from somewhere else uniformly has completely said that our schools suck.
They do.
And however, I will also preface this with South Florida. Florida in general is like one of the bottom states in education in the country, even though it's one of the richest states. This is the thing that pisses me off the most. We're down there in education with like Mississippi and West Virginia and South Carolina that are all extremely poor states. We are one of the wealthiest states, but instead of being up there in education with the other wealthier states, we are not. That's the anomaly. We are not. But so aside from just here, our education system in this country is very lacking. And I have not met somebody, a foreign national person, who has not basically confirmed that. And I mean all different places. I do Pilates with a woman from Croatia, you know, like just whatever, just all different places. And it's pretty uniform that our country's education is substandard.
And it's not by accident. That's the other thing. It is a deliberate movement towards, what would you call it? You know, they want cogs in the machine. They don't.
They need drones. Well, it's a couple of things. One, it's the system that we set up post World War II, post industrialization. Like it's the same. We're still living in the same educational paradigm for an economy and a citizenry that it just doesn't work anymore. So we're living in an old paradigm where it doesn't work. And yes, that was designed to create factory workers and laborers, and that was the whole point. And yet we no longer have those jobs, but we're still using that same educational paradigm. So we're still training cogs. We just no longer have the machines for them. And that's a problem in and of itself. But the other thing is, of course, the corruption and the waste and the contracts with private charters and all the different things that are totally undermining our public education and making us dumber and dumber. We also, I would say, a third aspect that I would suggest is our complete and utter hubris in this country. Like we really think we're all that. And as a result, so many, and because a lot of people in this country don't travel abroad, and I'm not criticizing it. We have a big, beautiful country and there's a lot of good things to see here and not everybody can afford to do that. But because of that, our perception, our perspective is very limited. It's very limited. And so we don't really have anything to compare to. I think that kind of keeps us kind of dumb. And then this overwhelmingly like pushed sense of superiority that we get from just our nationalism in general, all of that keeps us feeling like this sense of completely like we're so great and yet we're so not. So I think it's a combination of things, and people are generally, I think most people do not realize how dumb we are. That's what I think. And so then if they did, then maybe we could address the issues. But I don't think most people realize, because again, if you don't have anything to compare to, you know, like, and most people don't leave the country. So how would they know?
That's actually a great transition, because apparently the powers that be, and they're still there for a few more days, think that this country is very stupid, to the extent that they actually believe that President Biden is the person responsible for the ceasefire in Gaza.
All right. Are we going to get into ceasefire now? Are we going to get into it? I have so many things to say, but go ahead.
The President of the United States made a statement yesterday, and apparently we are supposed to buy into this. Well, you know what? Let's introduce our wonderful friend.
Okay. I was going to say, like, do you want to wait for...
Yes, because, time's not wasting, but we definitely always want to have somebody who knows a thing or two about the highs and lows of our political arena. And that, of course, is Zeynab Day. Welcome back to Generational Change.
Hey, Zeynab.
Hey, guys. Sorry, I got a new camera because mine was cutting in and out the other day, and I couldn't get it to work with StreamYard for just a moment. So.
But you look lovely. You look very Christmas festive. I mean,
I was going to say, you're going to keep that tree up for at least another month, probably. So,
why not?
True.
It's pretty.
I was late putting it up this year, so I was like, fine, I'm going to keep it up till the end of January.
I think is it a real tree or a faux tree?
Oh, it's
a faux tree.
That's
okay.
Well,
no, because then it can stay up without having to be a pain in the butt, without having to keep watering it and stuff. Yeah, I think it's lovely. I think that you should have it year round if you like it, and just change the ornaments so they're not always Christmas ornaments. For example, Halloween ornaments, Thanksgiving ornaments.
We had a Halloween tree every year when Lydia was growing up. We made our own scary decoration, not scary, but goofy and kind of creepy decorations.
I think it's awesome. I think it's lovely.
I think so too. No argument. So, as you probably know, the president of the United States, he still is for a few more days, really wants to prove just how dumb our country really is and try to take credit and think that people are going to buy it, that he is the reason that there is a ceasefire in Gaza. We all know that that is probably not the case, but he'll still take a lap anyway, and anything to stick it to Trump, of course. So here's what the president had to say.
At long last, I can announce a ceasefire and a hostage deal has been reached between Israel and Hamas. More than 15 months of conflict, more than 15 months of terror for the hostages, their families, the Israeli people, more than 15 months of suffering by the innocent people of Gaza. Fighting in Gaza will stop, and soon the hostages will return home to their families. The deal is structured in 3 phases. Phase 1 will last 6 weeks. It includes a full and complete ceasefire, withdrawal of Israeli forces from all the populated areas of Gaza, and the release of a number of hostages held by Hamas, including women and elderly and the wounded. And I'm proud to say Americans will be part of that hostage release in phase 1 as well. And the Vice President and I cannot wait to welcome them home.
Who is the history books credit for this, Mr. President, you or Trump?
Is that a joke? Oh. Thank you.
Oh, that was so pathetic. I don't even know where to start. I have so many issues with just the whole thing. First of all, let's start for me from the beginning. It's not a ceasefire, and the term ceasefire has been offensive from the beginning of them starting to use it. Language matters. I've always said this. And when you call something a ceasefire, you're implying that it's a two-sided situation. And that's offensive to me. So let's put that aside, that's ridiculous. It's the exact same deal that they did put on the table, but were unable to actually push through. But I also want to say I no longer believe that if I ever did. They're not unable. They do exactly what we want them to do. Israel is us. They are not different. They are not rogue. We are the rogue empire. So everything that they do is what we want them to do. But yeah, I have issues with the whole thing. But anyway, your thoughts, Zeynab?
Oh, I had read prior to the press conference that Netanyahu is already backing out. Well, not backing out, but doing the typical thing that Israel always does. And in the ninth hour, right before signing it, 10 minutes before signing it, decides that they're going to throw in a bunch of amendments to the bottom that basically says we get to control Gaza forever. And they need to eliminate their government entirely and allow us to occupy them, for an unlimited amount of time. So, I don't know if this is going to fully go through or not. And the announcement has been made, but it's the same thing that's always happened. So we're looking at that. And as far as if it's Trump or Biden or any of them, I don't know. Because I don't know what happened behind the scenes. I have no idea. All that I know is none of them actually want a ceasefire. None of them give a damn. Because some people are giving Trump credit. Are you kidding me? Come on. I don't think that it's him or Biden. I don't think that we can celebrate Trump. I think in my opinion, and this is just speculation, my speculation is that there are backroom deals between him and Netanyahu. Yes. And so that's what this is, to make Trump look good as he's coming into office. And I want there to be hope. I hate to say that because I want hope for the people there. And I pray that I'm completely wrong on this, but I don't think this stops anything. In fact, Trump says that Israel needs to stop spending money on Hamas and focus on Hezbollah and focus on Syria. So he's already switching gears to their phase 2 that they want to do anyway. And they're already wanting to switch gears to focus on Syria and Lebanon and their phase 2 onslaught.
Yeah, I actually think that it's totally a backroom deal. I think that Trump's person went over there and sat down with Netanyahu and said, look, this is really bad optics. You've got to stop killing the people in Gaza. Enough. They've had enough. We'll give you the West Bank. We're going to let you do whatever you want. We're going to give you the West Bank. You can go settle it, but you've got to stop hurting the poor Palestinians in Gaza. It looks really bad, and Trump needs to look good. And I think that they have agreed on other things as well. But yeah, I think this is going to be the complete sacrifice of the West Bank. I mean, it's happening anyway, is what I think it's happening anyway. But and also you've got Golan Heights now, you've got like this whole greater Israel project. And I think essentially what Trump said to him is, we're going to let you expand in all those directions, but you've got to at least slow down on Gaza. You can't do that right now.
At least for 6 weeks.
At least, yeah.
Because that's what was in the ceasefire. I mean, come on, let's be real. You know,
they won't honor it. Israel has no honor. See, countries like us that don't abide by international law and treaties, those things don't mean anything. That's the other problem with this. What does that mean? They've already violated the ceasefire that they've had with Hezbollah since the first day they had it. And they have violated it every day since. So the idea of even creating an agreement with a party that has no honor is useless. There
was a ceasefire during the March of Return when more than 460 people were killed and, several thousand wounded. There was a quote unquote ceasefire all the way up till October 6th, supposedly, yet more than 300 people were killed and 1,500 children held detained in Israel under the age of 12. Which I consider to be hostages, because these are children held to basically bribe people to leave their homes, to force people to leave their homes in places like the West Bank so that they can then capture their properties. So, or on, ridiculous charges in order to...
Look at how he phrased that. Look at how he phrased it, right? The Israelis that are being held are hostages. The Palestinians are prisoners. But of course, implying some criminal wrongdoing when all of the people that we are speaking of are people that have not been formally charged or had any sort of due process. Those are the only people that we're speaking of. And nobody addresses that. Right. No. So, and yet that is supposed to be part of the exchange. Like it's something like 30. And I always wondered what the exchange rate was. How many Palestinians is worth one Israeli? What's that exchange? I don't know.
Yeah. And the thing that you also have to be fair about is whether or not Trump is going to do a few things during his presidency that is a wild card and will actually be good, maybe inadvertently for the American people. That may be true. But this idea that Trump will put Bibi in his place, it's not a question of whether Trump will put Bibi in his place. It's a question of Miriam Adelson will not allow Trump to put Bibi in his place. If there is one component to this backroom deal that I don't think anybody's talking about, is the idea that the ICC will not be permitted to prosecute Bibi or any of his cohorts, and that is a condition of the ceasefire.
I don't see how they can do anything about that, though.
Well, money talks and justice walks. You don't give somebody who's going to be president of the United States $100 million and think that there isn't some type of an exchange that's going on.
Oh, I think there's an exchange. I think he's going to hand over all of the other land and let them keep working towards a greater Israel. And I think there's probably stuff, but I don't see how they can get around the ICC other than they just don't abide by it.
Perhaps not. But the thing that you have to remember is that we're living in a completely different political environment today. If Trump attempts to go down that road, I don't know how he thinks that this is not going to backfire on him spectacularly, or that anybody can't see that this is going to end up being really, really bad. The problem, of course, is that there is no opposition party in the Democrats. We're going to get to AOC later, but without question, I just think that the people in general are getting restless. I think they are. I think people in general are really tired of this shit. Even today, Bernie was questioning the new Treasury Secretary, and he said, "Do you think that the minimum wage should be higher than $7.25 an hour?" And he says, "No," just like that. No.
Well, he doesn't believe in a minimum wage at all.
No.
That's the thing with a lot of those people. They don't believe in having like any sort of government requirement of wage. They think it should just be a free market situation. So yeah, they don't believe in that at all.
What I think is even more telling, which I think is a bigger part of this whole story, is what actually happened at the final press corps meeting today with the real president of the United States, as I often like to say.
Satan.
Well, Tony Blinken is a lot of things. I don't know if Tony Blinken has reached the level of John Bolton, but he's certainly pretty close. And
I got to tell you, this administration is like, I honestly feel like that Joe Biden and Blinken's, like, this Department of State is the worst in my entire life.
Oh, they're up there with Bush now. Oh, absolutely.
And Bush, that was 2 terms. Biden's been able to reach that level in 1.
That's a great point.
Blinken is a psychopath. He is okay with murder, and he absolutely does not believe that Palestinians are worth anything. He
was one of the architects of the Iraq War. Speaking of which, so he brought his architecture of the Iraq War into his viewpoint on and his handling of Israel, because he is an ardent, raging Zionist with an agenda, a specific agenda, and he was open about that agenda during the Iraq War. So this is nothing new with Blinken.
No, he's horrible.
Always be wary of little men. And Tony Blinken is a little
man.
And our friend, Max Blumenthal, let him have it today in a way that is kind of a perfect send-off in many ways. But
and then the other journalist, I forget his name.
Sam Husseini. We're going to get to that clip in a second. But here's Max Blumenthal giving a proper fuck you farewell to the real president of the United States, Tony Blinken.
300 reporters in Gaza were on the receiving end of your bombs. Why did you keep the bombs flowing when we had a deal in May? We all knew we had a deal. Everyone in this room knows we had a deal, Tony, and you kept the bombs flowing. Why did you sacrifice the rules-based order on the mantle of your commitment to Zionism? Why did you allow my friends to be massacred? Why did you allow my friends' homes in Gaza to be destroyed when we had a deal in May? You helped destroy our religion, Judaism, by associating it with fascism. You waved the white flag before Netanyahu. You waved the white flag before Israeli fascism. We'll have the time to take questions at the end. Your father-in-law was an Israel lobbyist. Your grandfather was an Israel lobbyist. Are you compromised by Israel? Why did you allow the Holocaust of our time to happen? How does it feel to have your legacy be genocide? How does it feel to have your legacy be genocide? You too, Matt. You smirked through the whole thing every day.
I just have to say,
I have not seen this yet. I haven't seen it. I saw the other perspective. I saw the person shooting Max in third person. I haven't seen this. This is awesome to see Max's perspective from this same.
But could you believe that Count Smirkula? That's good, man.
Count Smirkula. That's what I was about to say.
But Miller, with that freaking look on his face, he just can't help himself. Some people really do have like Hillary Clinton has.
Okay, so we got Blinken.
It's Duper's delight. There's a name for it. Narcissist. I'm not diagnosing him with narcissism, but obviously, we can. But anyway, narcissists have a tendency to do what is called Duper's delight and smile uncontrollably. Like they can't help it, and it comes through. And I see it on him constantly. It's like he can't hide that he's.
It's also when they know they're lying. I also
exactly
think people know they're being duplicitous. They know.
Final word from
these are psychopaths.
Final word from Max.
Thank you. Smirked through a genocide.
Thank you.
Smirk through a genocide. But if you thought that was bad.
He's the ace of clubs, by the way, for anybody who's interested. Again, I haven't pulled him out in a while, but we've got war criminal cards at thewarcriminals.com, and get yourself some of these. It supports Palestinian children. And that douche, Matthew Miller, is the ace of clubs. Blinken's king of spades. So, but yeah, we're You're
saying that, Matt. Well, technically, the ace of clubs has more value than the king of spades. So you're saying
technically, but that's only because each suit is a different thing. So the spades are all the White House. So you're not going to have Blinken above Biden. So Biden's the ace of spades, but the clubs are all the talking heads of empire. So the clubs are all the spokespeople. So he's the highest in that douche group.
So Ryan Grimm was also there in the press court today.
He looked like he wanted the world to open up and suck him in.
Yeah, he took the back shot. But this is Sam Husseini, who has been hypercritical of the real president of the United States. He got dragged out of there today. This is pretty bad.
Free people. You pontificate about a free press. You pontificate about a free press. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. I am asking questions after being told by Matt Miller that he will not answer my questions until I'm asking questions. Wasn't the point of the May 31st statement to block the ICJ orders? You blocked the ICJ orders.
Please, sir, respect the process.
Oh, respect the process. Respect the process. While everybody from Amnesty International. From Amnesty International to the ICJ saying that Israel is doing genocide and extermination, and you're telling me to respect the process.
Shame on every other person in that room for just sitting
there. I'm so
there.
angry at the woman in purple right now.
Sorry.
Oh my God, I can't believe he's acting
Every
this
single person in that room is complicit. Screw
How about the
them.
guy? How about the Nick Fuentes looking guy with the smirk on his face?
Oh,
I can't stand it. These are supposed to be journalists.
Oh, he already said it. So as he's being dragged out, the last thing he said before he's dragged out the door is, "You should be in the Hague."
You should be in the Hague.
And he should. Of all the people that should be in the Hague, Tony Blinken's number one on the list, as far as I'm concerned.
Of this administration, we have to.
Why aren't you in the Hague? He framed everything in a question, and I thought that was brilliant. Because that's a good question. Why is he not in the Hague?
Yeah. Well, because you have a whole room of complicit people like that. Case in point, every single journalist in that room who sat and just like cowered, like, oh, I hope they don't do that to me. You're a coward. You're a coward.
If it had come to me and I was sitting in that room, I would have asked the next question. I'd have written down his questions and I would have asked one. And if they ignored that one, I would have asked another and then another and another until they drug me out too.
Exactly.
And I would hope that every single person would follow in behind that. But people aren't willing. There's no Edward R. Murrows today, not in corporate media.
No. Well, they've all had to leave. Anybody who didn't support the first war in Iraq got basically ousted from mainstream media, and then they cut off all foreign correspondence, so they don't ever have that, and they just take talking points from the State Department. So
they stopped hiring journalists. They stopped hiring journalists. They started hiring, no offense to you, Jen, but they started hiring lawyers, and they started hiring corporate executives, and they started hiring folks like that. They stopped hiring beat journalists that do the work on the ground.
But in all fairness to me, I actually did go to school for journalism and have a master's in it. So in all fairness,
did you really?
I did.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, I was a journalism person before I went to law school.
Rank.
I'm just saying I'm not completely like out of left field. That's all I'm saying. No, I'm not completely out of it.
Did you say she pulled rank?
Yeah, she pulled rank. Yeah,
that's well, she's got one up on me. I only have a bachelor's, so.
No, but I've been around.
It's not overly educated.
But I will tell you, I've been around those upper class liberals, and they really do live by the credentials. Like that is a measure in life that matters. Like you are nothing without a higher education. It doesn't matter what you do. There is a level of acceptance that comes with being an Ivy League scumbag. Doesn't matter if you're a scumbag. It just matters that you're Ivy League. Like to them, that is very, very, very important, especially
in journalism. If you didn't go to Northwestern, you could have gone to an amazing school. If you didn't go to Northwestern, or you didn't go to oh God, Jen, don't tell me you went to Northwestern. You did. Oh no. It is true though. You can't get hired if you didn't go to Northwestern.
No, I went there for grad school. I actually went to Medill journalism for a master's degree. So my undergrad's from Colorado, but yeah, I actually did go to Northwestern. And it is really nice. I will say.
And it's a great school for journalism. It really is. Yeah. But I went to an amazing school for journalism, one of the best in the country, Southeastern Kentucky University. And
I'm a firm believer that great education can be had in lots of places from great teachers. I went to a 4th-tier law school, and my professors were amazing. I had a great education. I honestly got the same. I don't think there would be anything different other than, yes, more competitive students. But in terms of the quality of my education, it wouldn't have been different if I went to a top-tier school.
Yeah.
So I fully get that. And, you know, in all fairness, I will tell you the only reason I think I even got into Northwestern, it was the second year of that master's program, the IMC program. And so I think they were like just really desperate for bodies, but we don't know. We'll never know the truth.
I'm sure you earned it, but it's hard. It's expensive is the thing, is a lot of the barriers.
Oh.
I couldn't afford it. I got accepted into Yale. One, they didn't have a program for single mothers. Two, there was no way in hell I could go to Yale.
How could you?
How would I ever in a million years? And it was one of the only few schools that had the track that I wanted to go on, because I wanted to do internet law and I wanted to protect against censorship online. And this was back in 2014 is when I started applying to do that. But yeah, I've noticed this barrier. I have noticed a barrier in journalism. It either comes to, you have to, if you have an Ivy League education and you're not a seasoned journalist that's worked beat on the ground, or you are, they have so many people that are talking heads that used to be CEOs of Fortune 500s. If you look at their roster, that's like half of their people that they have now that are in broadcast, because broadcast and print are a lot different, but we're seeing print going that same way too.
Well, they can't.
But so once you're sitting in that room, there's corporatists themselves that are sitting in that room. There's people from the caste system, from that upper echelon and upper crust, and they're just as appalled as Blinken is that Sam Husseini would stand up and speak. And in their minds, you know, journalism isn't a place for protest. Well, what's the freaking point of the fourth estate?
Complete point
not
of
asking
journalism.
the right questions. Yeah.
Well, and I think what's interesting, I'm actually surprised, quite honestly, that they still allow Max in the room. That was the first thing that I found surprising, because I know that's not the first time he's been pulled out of a press room. So I'm surprised that he still gets back in. And that to me is why they all sit there and keep their mouths shut, because they don't want to forego their invitation to the club. And I get it. Like I like Ryan Grimm. He's a nice guy. You know, I have no beef with him whatsoever, but he wouldn't do that.
That's not his style.
No, of course not. And he also is someone that does work on the inside and needs to have access on the inside to be able to be of any help to the cause, you know, so you can't have everybody be kicked out.
I think there's a difference between being on the inside and working for the inside. I think he is on the inside, but I don't see Ryan as somebody who's trying to adhere to the status quo and keep it as it is. Whereas somebody like Matt Miller is 1000% trying to keep things as it is, because it serves him. It serves him well. The reason he's got that smirk on his face in part is because he's sociopathic, but on another part of it is, I'm in the club and you are not. I like that there's also this very schoolyard type of shit about like, I'm with the cool people and you're not with the cool people. Like, I get invited to the Georgetown parties and you don't. And to him, that matters. To him, that's fulfilling in life. It's like, you're Sidney Blumenthal's son, and you're never going to get invited to any of these places because you decided not to play the game. I played the game, and I did it the right way. Yeah, Trump will be in for 4 years, but I'm going to sit on the board of a nonprofit in D.C. for the next 4 years. And then the Democrats will win in 4 years, at least in his mind they will. And I'll be right back where I need to be. That's how they see it.
You noticed that I'm thinking about it, and I have seen Ryan push them like that before. They just haven't picked him up and drug him out.
That's true.
Well,
I've seen him ask
Husseini on purpose, and I think that did they remove Max, or did Max just push them?
They removed him.
Okay, they took Max out.
They removed Sam first. So here's what I'm thinking. No, they didn't.
Max first.
Okay.
And because when Max gets removed, you could see Sam still sitting there and filming it.
Okay.
So it was the opposite. But Max stood up and sort of willingly walked out. They kind of could, but they didn't have to drag him out. And it also wasn't 3 security people. When it was
they targeted him because he is a Middle Eastern man. Sam Husseini, they targeted him on purpose, and I think they targeted Matt on purpose. There were other people that asked some tough questions today, but I have seen Ryan pushed. I mean, to his credit, but I will say that I was disappointed. I mean, this isn't toward Ryan. I do think he does great reporting, but I was disappointed in the entire room.
Exactly.
For that, after not having proper solidarity, journalists no longer have solidarity.
None.
Zero. No, there's none. Zero. Well, outside in independent journalism, there's solidarity when you're on the ground. I've been on the ground with other journalists covering, actions and protests and stuff like that, and there is a lot of solidarity on the ground. I've seen people protect each other from police brutality. I mean, all kinds, protect each other from arrest, but there is none in these corporate centers.
What's really frustrating about what that scene is that this was Blinken's last press conference. This was his final goodbye. So this was the opportunity for them to stand up and basically say something, because they really don't run the risk of not being invited back because it's all different people. So it wouldn't even be like the same press people, So really at this point, people like Ryan, and I've seen him at press conferences where he'll ask a question and it's so clear that they're lying and they know that they're being lied to, which is why I think they should have all stopped going to these, because I don't know what the point is of going to them. But at this particular conference, the rest of them should have said, you know what, you've been lying to us for 15 months, so good riddance. Because this was his last one. That's why I think it was so cowardly to not say anything at this point, that they've been being lied to for over a year repeatedly on this issue.
Well, if there's one thing that I think it should come as no surprise to anybody, and this, of course, is always after the fact, we will always, if you think about the drip that's going to come over the next several years from the things that people knew that they kept their mouth shut about for various reasons, most of it is always about money and power, if not all of it is about that reason. But when it comes to the bullshit that they were fed for so long pertaining to the election and why, if anything, was the issue of Israel's genocide in Gaza going to determine the outcome of the election? Did it decide the election? It may have, but it certainly made the margin for Trump very sizable when it was all said and done.
Yeah.
New poll, Gaza was #1 issue for Biden 2020 voters who did not vote for Harris. That should come as no surprise to anybody. A poll released Wednesday by IMEU, which is it's like the International Muslim, I don't remember what the call letters are, but the IMEU policy project in YouGov found what few in the Democratic Party have been willing to admit. VP Harris lost votes because of the Biden administration support for Israel's genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. 29% of voters nationally who voted for Biden in 2020 and did not vote for Kamala Harris in 2024 say ending Israel's violence in Gaza was the top issue which affected their vote choice. Is that any surprise whatsoever to anybody? This is an aha moment that all of a sudden, we're now thinking about. And we did it.
Liberals. It's a surprise to liberals.
Well, it's sort of like, they're just sort of now getting the memo, right? Like they're like, that was important. You guys thought that was important. I mean, but here's the problem, of course, as we all know, is that Trump's no different. So even though we know that's why, we can't have any satisfaction in that the result will produce a different outcome. That's what's so frustrating about it, because we do know that was the right move, but yet we still don't get any relief from the same problem.
No.
And Congress hasn't changed because, we look at the administration a lot, and we should. But just as much blame, if not more blame, also goes to Congress, which 86% of Congress has voted in support of funding for genocide. Most of the policies, when you look at certain policies, such as actually literally funding genocide, it's about 92% of Congress voted in favor. 92%. This is something that they're bipartisan, unanimously in support of, almost overwhelming. So and voting for a Republican isn't going to change that, because they very well support it, just as the Democrats do. So I think sometimes as leftists, because we have a tendency to, I was never a Democrat, so this wasn't a thing for me, but I have seen it, where people believed so much in the party that they kind of harp on it because it's like you feel like there's supposed to be an opposition party, right? So we talk about the Democrats and we try to hold them to account, but to me, I feel like I'm tired of those wheels spinning because it's doing nothing. It's going nowhere. I've tried that now for years, hoping that there would be an opposition party, and they haven't been doing it. So now when I speak about it, I think there's a lot of frustration with leftists, especially when it comes to the Democrats, because the Democrats, they believed was going to do all these things for us. They were going to maybe get us health care. They made all these promises. They were supposed to be for the working man. But I'm from Kentucky, and Republicans lie to us in the exact same way here. Basically the same exact policies. They'll go door to door and they'll tell people, they'll go knock. They actually organize and they knock on doors and they'll say, we're going to get you health care. We're going to get you jobs. They make the same promises here. So, but I'm sure you guys see that in Florida too. People making the same promises on both sides of the aisle.
No, all they do here is fearmonger about Republicans. Actually, we don't have any. I don't see it nationally either. The Democrats don't have policy. That's true. 2015, their own, other than Bernie, their only policy is just we're better than Trump. So that's almost 10 years where the Democrats have not promoted anything of substance.
Well, I can tell you that I have a congressional race going on right now because I'm in Florida's 1st district in the Panhandle. And
Gates' seat.
Yeah. And so while, it's certainly a very conservative district to say the least, it was interesting going to a very conservative local Republican club where they actually do question the candidates in a very substantive way. Now, of course, the drawback is when you get these very devout Christian church-going, old women in particular, where abortion becomes the first issue on their mind as soon as they get up there to speak. And of course, Niceville is a nice town, no pun intended. So their concerns are not necessarily the concerns of working people per se. However, I find that the substantive nature at the grassroots level of the GOP completely buries the Democrats tenfold. And that's a big reason why they are successful. There is no explanation, being a Kentuckian, that somebody like the Grim Reaper has lasted as long as he has. The reason why McConnell has been able to stay in power is because the grassroots initiatives in Kentucky by the Kentucky GOP is second to none. It's probably as effective as any. No?
No.
So then what am I missing? So then how does McConnell stay in power?
Same way Debbie Wasserman Schultz does, I would assume.
Well, and it was partially because everyone hated Amy McGrath just as much because she said she was going to bend over and do Trump's bidding. So they were like, to hell with it. We're not just going to show up.
How was it not But Zeynab, how is it not a bigger scandal when it was discovered that McGrath was actually taking the tens of millions of freaking dollars that she was getting from both coasts and giving money to Trump-backed advertising in the swing states of Iowa and Ohio? How is that not the biggest fucking scandal ever when that happened?
Because they don't care. It doesn't matter. Democrat means nothing. It's like they thought they're so crazy here. I worked on Allison Lundergan Grimes' campaign in 2014. And what I noticed is she had a very progressive campaign initially. And they came in and they gutted her campaign. They came in from DC literally down and they're like, this is how you talk to Kentuckians. You have to understand how Appalachia, how you speak to people in Appalachia. And I'm like, you're not from here. Why are you telling us how to talk to our own people? And they didn't use any polls. They didn't use anything. You know what they used? Stereotypes about us all being conservatives based on nothing. It was completely empty. One of the things that the Democratic Party does that's always drives me absolutely crazy, and a lot of journalists do this too, is they will base a sentiment on the state on what its state house looks like and how they vote in presidential elections. However, they don't look at several different factors such as turnout. Turnout has been crap in Kentucky. It was something 85% of seats were uncontested here. We don't have a red state house. We just don't have any There's no adversarial party. And then they come and they gut any progressive candidate, like they gutted Allison Lundgren Grimes and they made her Republican light, and nobody cared. They just didn't show up. So our turnout in that race was excruciatingly low. Same people showed up for Charles Booker in the primary, and they stayed home when Allison Lundgren Grimes won. They did not vote. Just because these people are in the seat doesn't mean that people showed up to vote for them. Maybe they just didn't have anybody to vote for against them. You know what I mean? So you also have to look at voter turnout. Kentuckians aren't keeping Mitch McConnell in the seat. It's that we haven't had an alternative to Mitch McConnell. I mean, if you look at Thomas Massie, he is so different than Mitch McConnell, right? If you look at Rand Paul, he is so different than Mitch McConnell. They're still Republicans, but if you look at it, they're really very populist on a lot of issues, right? They're a stark difference to Mitch McConnell. And then Matt Bevin is our governor. Or I'm sorry, Andy Bashir is our governor. And so, I mean, when you look at that, you have to kind of look at the whole picture. We're not keeping Mitch McConnell in office. It's that we haven't had an option. And when an option does crop up, the Democratic Party cuts them off at the knees.
So as I said, he's there because for the same reason that Debbie Wasserman Schultz is where she is. It's the same crap. It's the same crap, different party, but it doesn't even matter.
It's actually a really good point, because Hassan Piker was able to get the old Burn to come on the podcast. And he is, you know, it's unfortunate, but the Bernie Sanders that, of course, has emerged post this election is sounding a lot more like the Bernie Sanders of 2015 and 2016. It's when the going gets tough that you're really supposed to speak the truth about what's really going on. It's unfortunate that he feels the need that, you know, to say certain things. But I thought this was a very poignant position that Bernie took when he was questioned by Hassan regarding the Democratic Party the other day.
A lot of people are essentially saying, you know, I'm sick and tired. I've heard all of it over and over again. It ain't working for me. Status quo is not what I want. I want change. Trump may be crazy. He may be a pathological liar. He's going to bring about change. So that's what I think we're dealing with.
Do you feel like this was a crisis in communication from the Democratic Party in the past election cycle that led to the defeat of Kamala Harris?
No, I don't. I don't think it's a question of communication. I think it's what the Democrats stand for. So, you know, it's not.
Bernie.
That's a nice amount of self-awareness right there, though.
But why in the fuck do you hold that back for the past 5 years?
Exactly. Where's that been?
That is the brutal truth.
But are they kicking off hashtag resist 2.0?
It's too late to say it now. Like, great. Thanks for that.
Yeah, he's in no position to ever run again. And the person who was supposed to grab his mantle, and I think we'll transition to that in just 1 second, and you can really speak to this. Yeah, when everything is about playing not to lose, this is what ultimately ends up happening.
Yeah.
You end up being able to say what needs to be said when there's no risk involved in front of you.
Exactly. That's why he could say it now, because so what?
What the hell is the Democratic Party now? I mean, people really underestimate how much people truly hate the party now. They'll still win elections and the infrastructure is still there because it's a two-party duopoly and it's all funded by the billionaire oligarchic class at this point. But in terms of the grassroots enthusiasm of people actually getting off of their butts and really wanting to knock on doors and make the efforts and things like that, yeah. You heard constantly during the election, Zeynab, about how, Kamala had so many canvassers out knocking on doors. You were paying them to do it. So, of course, they're going to do it.
And did they really? I looked at some of the numbers and I was like, I had more people in one congressional race than they had in entire states.
Yeah. No, they really like to, they always want to talk a big game. And it's always about money. But man, the Republicans are so much better at fooling the American people than the Democrats are.
I can't believe Bernie went on with him.
Well, Hassan is not, I mean, you could say he's a boat rocker, but at the same time.
No, he falls in line. He falls in line with the party, from my understanding.
Yeah. If he went on with us, that would be something. Then, of course, I could let him know exactly that would be fun.
He'd probably appreciate your impersonation.
I think what he would say is, Peter, that's a pretty good impression. I appreciate it. And,
yeah, I think he would. I think he would like that. Bernie can laugh at himself. I mean, he's definitely grumpy, but I think he can take a joke.
Well, it's not even a joke. Like I'm channeling Bernie. I'm method Bernie. I'm not trying to make it so like Bernie's
method Bernie.
Yeah. I think the American people deserve.
Oh man!
Unfortunately, I didn't fight the way that I wanted to fight. But listen, give Hassan credit because Bernie is on with him right now, and he has the Palestine flag sitting right behind him. It's in full view. You can't.
What are you? Oh, I see. Yeah, I'm like that's a Cuban flag. I see it. Okay.
And the Palestine flag.
Yes,
even the Cuban flag. That in itself. So Bernie's a commie. And you know what I would have said, Zeynab, from the day one, when any of these jackoffs come out there, you're a socialist, you're a communist, is saying, you could call me whatever the hell you want to call me. I support the policies that are going to make working class people's lives better in this country. Do whatever the hell you want. But that's me. Because if I'm out there on the trail, I'm not afraid of anybody. I'm just not. You either have it in you or you're way too concerned about what the consultant class has to spew to you because for them, it's all about a career. It is not about whether you win or lose the election. It's about whether or not you continue to get hired. And in the Democratic Party, it's 10 times worse than the Republican Party because in the Republican Party, you actually have to win races. In the Democratic Party, you could be a 10-time loser and they'll keep hiring you because it is all about the Center for American Progress. It's all about that resuscitating that corporate middle that they so very much like to brag about. Let's finish out the comment with Bernie.
Messaging is art. So if the Democrats believe, does the Democratic leadership believe that the current system is broken? You tell me. Have you heard that? People go around saying, look.
No, they don't say it's broken. In fact, Jen, what do you like to say?
It's fixed. It works exactly how it's intended to work. There's nothing broken about it. It's very intentional.
Yeah. And that, I think, in many ways is sort of the whole trajectory of what the odyssey that we've been on for the past several years. And always a big thank you to you because you went to bat for Jen early on. A lot of people do not want to challenge real power. Even when you have these outside organizations, it's just so ironic because I get emails almost every day, Z, and I'm sure you do too, from the Squad Victory Fund and Justice Democrats, and all of a sudden they have $100,000 goal by February 1st, and they got it. And all I'm thinking is, no, we've tried this before, and we all see how so much of this ultimately ends up as a finality. There isn't this sort of awakening moment where everyone's going to be like, oh yeah, well, this is what we should be doing. And this is what's actually going to be necessary in order for us to achieve real systemic victories and to change the political dynamic. The whole denial of the fact that corporate special interests have captured our government is number one. Recognizing that you are either challenging power or you're not is number two. And then it depends on how you're challenging power. It's easy enough to get involved in a race where you may be able to make an impact, but to really challenge a power structure like Corey did, like Jen did, most of the time people don't want that. That is real boat rocking shit, and they don't want it because it really gets to the heart of what this is all about. Politics is all about money and power. It is not about serving everyday people. That's what labor's for. The labor movement is where it's at. Politics, in many ways, is just a distraction. And considering the heaven and earth that you and several others had to move to get Alex into Congress, and the fact that she is still a complete untold ingrate for everything that you and so many others did, she basically has stepped on the necks of everybody that has allowed her to ascend to this position. And then you get
her constituents the most.
Yeah, and I would like to hear about that because from your perspective, and we hear this on social media a lot, that AOC's constituents apparently love her and think she's fantastic. Is that really true? Is that what's really going on in Queens and the Bronx?
I don't know. I haven't seen polling there, but I can say that she ran on promises that she has completely backed out of, just like every other politician. She ran on the whole brand new Congress, I'm not a politician platform, to the point of going so far as lying about her background, which she didn't have to. There were plenty of other people that were business owners and other things that didn't lie about that to be a part of our slate. Why did she lie and just act like, oh, I was just a bartender? Bullshit. And so
it's a better backstory. It's somehow a more blue collar backstory.
It is. I was on that call. I remember why. I was just like, and I was kind of new I was one of the founders of Brand New Congress, but I came about 5 months later, and I was new at that time. So I was kind of like, this was one of my first bios I was writing. I was like, are we not going to be honest here and mention that, she's partial owner of the restaurant, which is fine. That's cool. Don't we support small businesses? I was like, you can just be like, I'm a small business owner. What's wrong with that? It was just strange to me.
It's just like Nina said, and Nina's been on our show several times, and she said, we didn't take a vow of poverty. Like you do not have to be offended by this idea that you have success in the capitalist system, even if you're trying to change it. And there is this idea of just this like total rejection of success as like that's some type of a martyr spot that you have to stand on and be like,
I don't abide by that. No. But I find Alex very disappointing. I've generally feel like over the past few years, I've always given her the benefit of the doubt on so many things. And I've always sort of like pulled punches because one, I'm old enough to be her mother. And I feel like, she had such potential to be like, I thought she could have been the Mockingjay. And instead, I hate to say it, but you know what has happened.
That's awesome.
It has officially happened. Alex is officially one of our bootlickers. And I honestly never thought that this would be the case at this point, but yet here we are. Sorry.
Me, myself, and I, you may be right, but she isn't the future in the sense that she's going to have the type of impact that you think she's going to have. It's not going to happen because the system is failing at such a rate right now that rosy words and political rallies and speeches don't mean jack shit anymore. They just don't. What made Bernie so unique is that he had a track record of a generation's worth of standing on the House floor by himself, standing all by himself, talking against the war in Iraq. There's just things that he did that he did not ever care about whether or not he was going along to get along. That was never his MO. But Alex's MO has turned into, I am going along to get along. That's my MO now. And Nathan J. Robinson just put up a post that was revealed from a meeting that happened the other day, as Alex has obviously tried to obtain a ranking member position in the Democratic Party when pressed last month by Cuellar and Sanchez, Henry Cuellar, of course, being
another piece of shit. Move on.
Representative that AOC has tried to support a primary challenge against. Ocasio-Cortez said she did what she thought was right at the time, but she was wrong in her mind. Now, she got her mind right.
Just read it. Stop ad-libbing.
A person familiar with the interaction said. Now, she told the group she's committed to helping all of her colleagues win in tough districts, including the moderates, and is focused on helping Democrats win back the majority of the House. We have one more. Ocasio-Cortez, 35, didn't apologize as she made her case to become the top Democrat on the high-profile House Oversight Committee. She did, however, tell her colleagues that she has matured and understood that a leadership role required additional responsibilities to support a whole caucus. She promised not to try to defeat her colleagues. She's a team player now and will help them win, she said, according to the two meeting attendees.
Now, Pete, and Jen, it's been a while. So do you guys care if I give just a very brief history lesson about what Brand New Congress was?
No, go ahead. By all means. It's just that this official Alex transferring into bootlicker territory. Officially.
And some people may not understand why. They're like, oh yeah, she would support her other Democratic colleagues. That would make sense. Well, there is a glaring reason why there's several things in this that shows that she has changed tremendously and that she ran on a falsehood from the beginning. She kind of duped people, right? And I can remember I actually had conversations with Peter a long time ago about Alex, and he was like, I don't know, let's give her a chance. And I was like, I think she's gonna sell out. Pete, do you remember those? A couple beers.
I knew that she sold out when she didn't have the gall to support. Forget supporting Jen against Wasserman Schultz. You want to talk about the non-starter in politics, nobody crosses Debbie. And I still think that's because she was in charge of the party for 6 years and she knows where all the bodies are buried. But the fact that she didn't even come out for Cori, people forget that Alex did not actually come out for Cori Bush. And
people might not know what that means, so we can explain why that's such a big deal that she wasn't giving endorsements. You know what I mean? Not to cut you off, but I think that
Zeynab, by all means, you're good at explaining the entire system of how this all works.
So brand new Congress was launched in 2017 by former Bernie Sanders staffers, who some of them ended up being massive grifters themselves later on. That's a whole other story.
Oh, yeah.
Middle seat, cough, cough. But anyway, it was started as a great idea. This idea was, let's overturn Congress. Let's run people. There's a ton of uncontested seats. There are still a ton of uncontested seats, which I need to do some reporting on because this year was insane. I've been compiling all the data. I think it's 75% of seats nationwide were uncontested this year across the board. Absolutely insane. But so there were all these uncontested seats in Congress. So with all these uncontested seats, let's focus on Congress specifically, and let's get rid of some of these people that have been in there for 35 years. It shouldn't be a career pathway. There should be some people challenge. One of the things that we had noticed was that there were people that hadn't had challengers in some of these districts forever, or that they were volatile. But we were looking for people. So the way that the system worked, and Alex was not one of them, come to find out. She wasn't one of the people nominated by her community, but most of our candidates were nominated by their communities and recruited. But people sent in, somebody else had to nominate our candidates. So like when we talked to Jen, we had gotten several nominations from Florida to speak to Jen before we endorsed Jen when she was running. So we launched campaigns at Brand New Congress. We got the nominations, then we went through the nominations. We cold called people that were nominated. We were like, hey, your community has nominated you to run for Congress. So these were some of these people, like Paula Jean Swearingen, had never even considered running for office, which was really cool. Some of the best ones were people that we recruited. The whole idea was to try something different, to have people running that aren't politicians, that don't come from that background, that come from community service backgrounds, organizing backgrounds, and are outside of that system beltway. And we wanted to run independents. We tried to run a progressive Republican. And we were running Democrats at Brand New Congress. Now, this isn't Justice Democrats. We'll get into that in a second. Brand New Congress launched first. Our first candidate announced was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Our second was Paula Jean Swearingen against Joe Manchin. Now, we launched AOC's campaign. We got her swag, got her trained. I wrote her bio. I wrote her speeches. I did a ton of they did a ton of prep with Alex, but then when I came in, I did a ton of prep with Alex about issues, about, how to speak, about, certain things, media prep, speech prep, policy prep, all of that. And so one of the foundational principles of Brand New Congress is that we shared a platform, and that platform supported the Green New Deal. This was before Green New Deal legislation was brought forward, based on things like the Reclaim Act and other policies such as this. We supported Medicare for All. We were one of the first organizations to support Medicare for All. We actually held the very first press conference for Medicare for All ever. And so those were two foundational programs. Later, we released a 21st Century Bill of Rights, which I wrote in 2020. But our candidates all signed on to a platform to support each other, endorse each other, help each other out with their campaigns, lift each other up, and to also support these foundational values. 1, no corporate money. 2, support these foundational values rooted in human rights that are anti-war, pro-health, and we had a very basic platform, but it was a progressive platform, or a more leftist platform. And another one was that we were going to primary and challenge sitting Democrats and get them out of office. That was the whole thing. The whole thing was to challenge people sitting in Congress and bring people in and help support primaries and help support general elections. That was the whole thing. So everyone signed this to not take corporate money and to unseat these corporate politicians and these middle of the road politicians and these politicians that take corporate money. She literally signed a pact to challenge Democrats that take corporate money. That is what she ran on. She ran against Joseph Crowley because he was the top Democrat, one of the top Democrats at the time, and had one of the highest amounts of corporate money. He was right up there with Wasserman Schultz. Her whole campaign was challenging the seats of power, challenging these Democrats, challenging Democrats with corporate money, not taking corporate money, how they need to be replaced. That's what she ran on. And now she's like, I'm going to protect those very people and work against people like me that want to challenge.
Exactly.
I'm going to pull the ladder, kick the ladder out from underneath me. And that's part of why Justice Democrats especially ended up being a failed strategy. And Brand New Congress did too once the organization, the board, unfortunately started focusing, which I advised against, only on Democrats and reforming the Democratic Party and moving more moderate, and things changed. And it was very frustrating. And they started working with consulting firms and a whole bunch of stuff. You know, this happens with these organizing groups. It's a mess. But AOC, she started up this ladder. She made these promises to her constituents. Her whole aesthetic, her whole promise, her whole vibe was to take on corporate money, to unseat these people. And she always said, if I have to be a one-term candidate or a one-term congressperson, so be it. I'm going to stick to my principles and constantly challenge the system. That was her thing. I know because I fucking wrote it. Excuse my language.
No,
I wrote it. I wrote "Bring the fucking Ruckus." That was me.
And I want to point out something very important here. Donald James is one of our most loyal supporters. We really appreciate that he's here. And here's where you're wrong, Donald. I'll tell you why. Thomas Massie, who I believe may even be your congressman, it goes without saying that he is the best that the GOP has to offer. This guy I don't even know if he sits on a single committee because he goes against the grain. He does not take corporate money. He doesn't even meet with lobbyists. And he is the most revered member of probably the MAGA movement overall. And he literally just had an expose come out with a friend of ours, Martha Bueno, down in Miami, who exposed Cat Turd and DC Drano as basically being a couple of additional grifters on the MAGA right who are just doing it for money. They don't believe in anything. They believe in the paycheck. Like Charlie Kirk.
An 86% approval rating.
Yeah. Which goes to show you that I don't want to hear this bullshit about how AOC doesn't have power or Bernie doesn't have power. They choose not to use it for the reasons that would make them basically politically immortal if they really wanted it. They could do that. Thomas Massie doesn't give a flying fuck what committee he sits on. Alex does care what committee she sits on.
Yeah, and she's thrown an entire movement under the bus.
Exactly.
There were how many candidates did we have, Jen? We had like 89 candidates all together in 2 election cycles. We garnered more than 14 million votes across the country. That's substantial. Cori Bush got elected, AOC got elected, and a lot of our candidates got close. But we did learn a lot. What we learned is the Democratic Party will throw everything. Like some people were naive because they were former Democrats and they thought, oh, you know, if we're running in a district where there's not a Democrat running, the Democrats aren't going to challenge us. The Democrats still challenged progressives even when there wasn't a Democrat running. And it was even when they won the primary and were running against the Republican in Paula Jean Swearingen's district, for instance, they sided with Shelley Moore Capito, the Democratic Party did, over Paula Jean Swearingen. Even donating to Shelley Moore Capito's campaign. So we discovered this. We learned a whole hell of a lot. But I'm so angry because one of the reasons that the movement deflated was because of people like AOC and Bernie. And
they left it. They left it.
Mm-hmm.
You had opportunities. I mean, we were talking with, a popular Twitch streamer, Mike from PA last week. And one of the things that he had mentioned, which I thought was very telling, was that Bernie's campaign in 2016 and his campaign in 2020 were completely different, top to bottom. And I agree that they were. And the biggest mistake that Bernie made was that he didn't trust that his movement was real, that people were still going to support him if he was the rabid economic populist of the left leader that he became in 2015 and 2016. Remember, he overcame so much, even though they clearly rigged the primary against him. But if he had stuck to that messaging, there still would have been enough people that had supported Trump in 20 that were in 2016 that would have come over to Bernie in 20. And I said, look, all Bernie really had to do was just say, look, I know you supported Trump, but at the end of the day, he passed the biggest tax cut in the modern history of America. And most of that went to the top 1%. Trump
and what did Joe do about that?
Did nothing. He made it permanent, just like Obama made Bush's tax cuts permanent, because this is the oligarchy that we live in. And if you're not willing to challenge, listen, I love everyone who's in the chat. I appreciate everyone who comes onto our show, but just understand, you have a loser's mentality when it comes to politics. You play not to lose.
Democrats are always on defense. They're always playing defense.
Like, oh, it's all AOC's fault from Colanello, who's been with us since the very beginning of our show. No, it's not all of Alex's fault, but as cliche as this may be to say, with great power comes great responsibility. She has real political power, and she chooses not to use it. She's also not, she doesn't have the type of gravitas as a political orator that somebody like Ilhan Omar has. And on top of everything else, and I've been saying this since day one about Alex, the big difference between somebody like Alex and somebody like Ilhan actually is one of the most effective legislators in all of Congress, and Alex is one of the worst. She is at the very bottom of people who get anything done, whether it's amendments, legislation, anything. Yes, do I appreciate the fact that she has been putting up legislation recently, particularly the bipartisan legislation with Congressman Fitzpatrick of Philadelphia, who's a Republican, when it comes to ending insider trading in Congress? Yes, but again, you're doing it at a time where nothing's going to come of it.
On purpose.
On purpose.
Of course.
Listen, it's not to say that, do I think Donald Trump would sign a bill into law that says you can't stock trade? Yeah, I don't think he gives a fuck. But in his first 100 days, that's not going to be a focus. So let's see what happens 4 or 5 months down the road if you're still going to have that fervor to bring up that bill when it could actually be, you could garner momentum for it. So let's see what you're going to do about it. I don't see.
Jen and I have talked about something before, and I remember us having this conversation. People always will look at the worst in Congress and they'll juxtapose that to someone like an AOC, and they'll be like, she's worlds better. But what we should really be looking at is who is supposed to be the best in Congress and pushing them to be better while we also hold the others accountable. Because where the hell is the bar? We have
it's so low.
The bar is.
It's
and that's
so
why
low.
the bar is in fucking hell. Excuse me, I don't know if I can cuss.
All right.
That's why the bar is in hell, is because we not, like we as a collective will look at like the worst person and we'll be like, this person's just a little bit better than that person. People are doing that. Leftists are doing that right now with Trump, because Biden was in office, saying that Trump's going to be a little bit better. He's going to be horrible.
The best example that I could give you is that people have their panties in a bunch in the worst way when it comes to Ron DeSantis in Florida. And I will tell you that as bad as he can be, he is nothing compared to Rick Scott.
Right. Again, talk about a low bar. Woo.
What Rick Scott did to this state is so unforgivable in so many ways. The things that he did environmentally, economically, and there's only one reason why he sits in the position that he sits in. He is the richest member in all of Congress. He's worth over $300 million, although we all know some of these people don't even disclose where a lot of that money is, Pelosi. But in addition to that, he is a phenomenal politician. I've seen Scott in action. I can see how people get lured in to such a sociopath like him. He's just really good at it. And some people, you just have to accept the fact that you can't draw everyone away from it. What we can do which is what I think the future of this has to be, because people always say, well, you're just complaining, and what are your solutions? Well, the truth is that the solution is going to come from outside of electoral politics. And the future is going to come through labor. You know, they just did a poll, ladies and gentlemen, of who independent voters want to see run for president in 2028. The number one person is Bernie Sanders. The number two person is Sean Fain. That is not a mistake. And that should not come as a surprise to anybody.
At least it's not Michelle Obama. Oh, God, I hate when I see that ridiculous nonsense.
No. Listen, if there's one thing that I can kind of think we have an opening right now in a lot of ways. I'm telling you right now, Z, I don't know where you stand on this. I don't think Kamala's going away. I think that she still has an itch. I think she still thinks that she's got something to do in politics. We'll see if she actually runs for governor of California. But I don't think she's going anywhere. And she apparently is in the process, Jen. You didn't see this because this just came out today. So Kamala has already decided that she's going to write a book, shocking, about how she lost. It's probably going to be just like Hillary's book, You Should Have Listened to Me, or whatever the fuck it was that she said. And then she'll go on the book tour. And then by the time we roll into 26, she's going to run for governor of California. That's what's going to happen.
I don't see it.
Try to see her power back.
I don't see it.
Well, when you look at the you might, but you know, yeah.
I don't see it. And I am supportive of Butch Ware anyway. Like, I'm hopeful that he can do something out there and potentially get some, more mainstream support for the Greens out there. That is, and given their jungle primary, it's potentially, it's doable. It's doable there.
We've got one more story to cover with you before you go, because this one I think is obviously the most important one that we've been dealing with for a very long time. And that is, it is amazing that despite everything that Bernie Sanders did over the past several years, especially with his leading policy of Medicare for all, that of all the things that he could have done to ignite people's level of interest in a single payer system in this country, nothing has come closer, and nothing will come closer than what Luigi Mangione allegedly did do. One shot can change everything. And as a result, this is in many ways the future, because so much of the change we seek is going to come from outside the electoral process. And Bill Burr, one of the few people of note in entertainment, has actually been saying extremely favorable things about Luigi. And apparently he did it again the other night.
Moved, but the fire was coming and all that stuff. So I feel lucky.
Are you guys back in?
And I think everybody did a great job.
Yeah.
Unlike the internet,
Yeah, right. I know, it's right.
Oh, my God. All of these fire experts. Why didn't you just fly a helicopter into the ocean? You know what? Looking at the footage on the internet, I have determined that this here was mismanaged. They're talking about looting. But CNN and Fox News are not going to bring up the insurance companies that are just going to keep everybody's premiums and still give themselves a bonus. Yes. Free Luigi!
You got to have a lot of balls to say that. That's first and foremost. But what is also interesting, and I put this tweet out on our behalf a little bit earlier, and I don't even know if it's gotten any traction. I think that just the message alone is what matters. And that's why Mangione is such a big deal right now. So apparently in California, LA residents whose homes burnt down in wildfires will still have to pay off their mortgages and property taxes.
Yes.
How's that possible?
Yes. Because it's a scam.
Yeah. I mean, you are just asking for a revolution at this point, as far as I can see. Like, they're just daring, but it shouldn't come as a surprise, because even after Mangione allegedly did what he did, and the conversation about for-profit health is unsustainable in this country anymore, you would think that people, Whitty, the CEO of United Health, no, they're just doubling down, tripling down, thinking, no, we're just going to make life even more difficult. I don't understand how they think that it's sustainable.
It's sad that I think you might be right that this can potentially spark a revolution. And I'm going to tell you why. Because right now, the upper middle class and the wealthy are seeing, the marginally wealthy, you know what I mean, in comparison to billionaires, because billionaires exist now. You can have someone that has a 20,000 square foot mansion in, Palisades, and I would be sad no matter who lost their home. I don't care, who they are, but a 15,000 mansion, square foot mansion in Palisades, and you hear people saying, well, this isn't, the wealthy because Elon Musk exists. No, that is still someone who has a 15,000 square foot mansion. Like, come on, man. But those folks thought that they were protected from this. There was a wall up. They thought, you know what, these people are mad about, being poors, but it doesn't really impact us. They need to get a job, do better. Now, the system has reached them.
Exactly.
We are in the Great Depression right now. At that point, when the stock market crashed in 1929, you're looking at 1933, 34, 35, when it started hitting. The corruption was so bad that it started hitting the middle class and the upper middle class. That's where we are. It's already hit the middle class. It already eroded them away. There is no real middle class anymore. Now it is hitting the people in that upwards 10 to 15%. There are a lot more people impacted. I'm not saying that those are the only ones impacted. There are people across the class spectrum impacted in California right now. But what I am saying is it is going to make news. That is the only reason we know about the insurance company issue. This has been happening in every disaster we have. Talk to people in Flint. They still have to pay their mortgages. They still have to pay. I mean, look at the people in I don't know what happened to my camera. I'm sorry, guys.
No, it's okay.
But look at the people in East Palestine, right? They still have to pay their mortgages. They don't get to move. Look at the people who are getting poisoned across the country. Their homes haven't burned down. They're living in them, getting poisoned every single day until they die of cancer or their children die. That is happening across the country everywhere. But they're talking about State Farm because it impacted people who know people on TV, who have friends that are impacted, who live in that area. And so they're actually talking about this, even though this has been happening to us for hell and ever.
Yeah, I mean, I've said that, as soon as the problems really hit the upper echelons of society and starts making things very inconvenient for them, this is very inconvenient. Now, yes, there are a lot of wealthy people in the Palisades, and I'm going to be very clear. I don't wish anything like that on anybody. I really don't. That's horrible. But in this situation, it needs to be handled like triage. Anybody where that's your second home, you need to go to the back of the line before we get to this as a problem, right? Like, you've got to triage the priority, and the priority is going to be the people that will most likely never own another home. The people that are in Altadena, that is also a very Black area. It has been one of the historic Black areas in LA. It was one of the few areas, if not the only area, that was not a redlined area. And Black people, Latino people have been able to own homes there. And these are people that will now not be able to buy another home. The people in the Palisades, while this will be completely inconvenient and will suck for them, they have the resources so that they can not only rebuild if they want to, but they'll have somewhere to go. I'm not worried about Paris Hilton's children being homeless. Okay. Like, that's, she's got a bazillion hotels. She can go to any one of them. So those are not the people that are concerned. The other people, I think it's going to make a difference in home ownership levels, because all of that property is going to get all bought up by those by the big companies. And they're going to make it so now all of those people are no longer going to be able to be homeowners in California.
Oh, listen, I'm in commercial real estate. I already saw somebody who lost a $5 million home in the Palisades, was contacted by a developer who offered him $750,000 for the land.
Infuriating.
Oh, yeah.
But that's how this is going to go. And I know that there's going to be conspiracies and whatever and all that. And whether or not there is any truth to cause or any of that, insurance and that industry, as well as those big funds that are buying up all the homes, those are predators. So regardless of whether or not they cause the problem, that sort of disaster capitalism is a very real thing. And the people in Maui, from my understanding, haven't been able to get back into in their properties. And those properties are going to be completely uninhabitable by those people because they're not going to be able to afford to build back up again.
Asheville too. Asheville, we're looking at something similar. Of course, it's not going to be the same. a lot more people will be attracted to the land in Florida than they are in Asheville. But Asheville was a growing community, and there's a reason that people are being predatory there. I know that Jordan sent me a link. Status Quo, a journalist, did some reporting on the ground, talking to people living in trailers and shanties and tents, still refugee camps.
Yeah, FEMA was there for a half an hour. FEMA was there for a half an hour, and the thing is, so the people that I cannot, and I saw this on the Status Quo report. So the people that are staying in this sort of like makeshift refugee center, okay, are being denied insurance coverage because the address that they're sending those things to at this place is not in the disaster zone. So the people who are there right now are not qualifying for coverage because they're not living in their disaster zone.
It's Elon Musk
kind of crazy crap.
Yesterday, he mentioned, what about North Carolina? I was like, why don't you do something about it, dude? You could literally give $30 million tomorrow to North Carolina and take care of it.
He could make sure that every single person has a tiny home that's like living in, in a bad way in North Carolina.
Buy a bedroom house, and it would be like pocket change to him. It'd be like going to McDonald's for us.
Meanwhile, continuing to facilitate the revolution, Musk earlier on X was rubbing elbows and talking about an alliance that he's forming with the other richest man in the world, Jeff Bezos.
Oh, great.
So I would advise people, especially those that are in the MAGA movement, and a lot of them are a lot more awake than those in the progressive movement who can't let people go, because I've seen this in real time, continue to understand that billionaires, can I say that Mark Cuban will do a thing or two that's good every once in a while? Certainly. But the overall consensus of the billionaire class is that they are the reason why your life sucks. It's that simple. You cannot have this much concentration of wealth and not cause the general population to suffer as a result. Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk are two, if not the two richest men in the world. And the reason they are as rich as they are is because they completely subjugate their employees. Mm-hmm. That is a fact.
Well, they exploit entire countries.
Exactly. These are
not. I mean? They exploit every system. Every inch of everything in this country has been consolidated into a group of maybe 5 companies that they all have ownership in.
I know. It's a cabal.
No, they're really great people. Trust me. I know good people. I see them all the time. They're doing a really great job.
But the thing I do think about it, and I said this about Musk in particular, and it'll apply to his relationship with Bezos and all. These are very small men. And by that, I mean, these men have huge egos and very thin skin. That combination, okay, amongst these this is like a pissing contest. I don't think that anybody will be left. Wait.
Pull it, please.
Pull what?
The image.
What image?
Small emasculated men.
Oh, you want to see it? Okay. All right.
Come
I'm
on.
sorry. All right. I'm like, what image do you want to see? All right. So the point is, these people. All right. And now he distracted me.
You guys hear something breathing very heavily? It's my dog. Come here. She's driving me crazy. Sorry.
Tales of emasculated, this is the Oligarch Chronicles, tales of emasculated men vying to destroy the world. But my point is that I don't think anybody in Trump's cabinet will make it past 1 year. I think that, people like Musk and Trump, they'll inevitably have a falling out. They will inevitably not be able to get along. That is way too much ego in one space. And I say the same thing for any sort of arrangement between the beret and the beanie head there on the right. These people cannot get along with each other because they're complete narcissists. So they can't get along with each other. They can't share. So it's a matter of time before that falls out.
Did you guys see today that Biden came out? Did you see his whole thing last night? Because I only saw snippets of it. I can only stomach so much, and I really don't give a crap what he has to say.
Yeah, I didn't watch it. I can't.
He said that we are now sliding into a kleptocracy.
Oh.
And that now we have to be worried about oligarchs because oligarchs are manifesting, basically. That's not the exact quote, but it's very similar. As if he hasn't helped to create this system his last, what is it, 100 years in Congress?
I mean, seriously.
So this was the last statement that the will soon be former president of the United States said today.
We need to get dark money. That's that hidden funding behind too many campaigns contributions. We need to get it out of our politics. We need to enact an 18-year time limit. Term limit. Time limit for the strongest ethics reform and the strongest ethics reforms for our Supreme Court. We need to ban members of Congress from trading stock while they're in the Congress. We need to amend the Constitution to make clear that no president is immune from crimes that he or she commits while in office.
But we can pardon our children.
President's power is not
War crimes are fine.
War crimes are fine.
You know, his farewell address, President Eisenhower spoke of the dangers of the military-industrial complex. He warned us then about, and I quote, the potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power, end of quote. 6 decades later, I'm equally concerned about the potential rise of a tech-industrial complex that could pose real dangers for our country as well. Americans are being buried under an avalanche of misinformation and disinformation, enabling the abuse of power. The free press is crumbling.
Is this an admission
Editors
of
are
guilt?
disappearing.
It's such a projection.
Social media is giving up on fact-checking. The truth is smothered by lies told for
coming
power
out
and
of
for
your
profit.
mouth. I find this infuriating. This is why I don't watch that, because first of all, it's so ridiculous. Also, and I didn't see it in the clip you showed before, but in one that I saw when he was talking about this deal, he mistakenly transposed Hamas and Hezbollah in his speech, and nobody called him out on that. Like, it's all the same. It's all the same. We don't care.
Because they're racists.
Well, it's all the same. I grew up thinking all Arabs, it's all the same. So I know that's not the same. But he's ridiculous. I mean, everything he said. Please give him the hook. He's got to go. He has just got to go.
Well, the thing that I found so disturbing about that statement is how much of it was projection. So much of what he was talking about were things that he's guilty of. One of the things that was without question happening, particularly in 2020 during the primary, when it looked like Bernie was actually going to grab it, was the amount of corporate special interest money that just flowed into Biden's coffers hand over fist. And he would come out and say nothing will fundamentally change. He wasn't kidding. He really meant it. And that's why he got all of that money.
Every bit of that is things that he is doing. And what they're doing is they're setting up the hashtag resist, 2.0 rebranding crap to try to, shepherd people back into the Democratic Party with this whole, none of this is true for Democrats. It's the Republicans. It's starting to happen now. And people just aren't going to fall for the gaslighting BS anymore. I mean,
No.
are you kidding? Everything you just listed, your party does. They're just not, I don't believe they're just not going to fall for it anymore.
Oh, no, I appreciate you, brother. But at the end of the day, 52 billionaires backed Trump, 83 billionaires backed Biden and Harris. Like you can try to make this into, well, our side's good and the other side's bad. No, both sides suck.
The system is just it's not for us. It doesn't serve us. It serves a handful of people. So it might be a good system for them. But for the rest of us, it doesn't work.
Rye with the statement of the night. Biden is Eisenhower giving his farewell speech from an office at Raytheon.
Exactly.
And it's
That's
true.
about right.
At least Eisenhower did accomplish some very meaningful things when he was the 5-star general and the president of the United States. He built the highway system. He integrated schools. He won the war in North Africa. He actually did do things. What the hell has Joe Biden done?
Oh, no, honestly, I'm telling you, I think he's like the worst. I think he's the worst. And I don't even think he's there. I don't think it matters. I think a lot of it is Blinken. I think a lot of it is just whatever powers that be and corporate, whoever runs everything. Right. It's the same state. But what you're saying, like we attribute certain things to certain presidents. And I think all of that is silly. I think that the empire trajectory is the empire trajectory, regardless of who's sitting in the White House. And I really think other than a few little social things here and there, it makes very little difference. The trajectory of capital is what it is. The person who's representing it is really nothing but just a representative of capital. So
I have an article I'm working on that has each point from like going back to I think I start with Reagan, but barely, and then I go into Bill Clinton, and I talk about, you know, how Bill Clinton gutted our how Clinton created the TANF program, remember? And he gutted social safety nets, and then he gutted.
I was just triangulating my my way through politics. I hope you all understand. It wasn't personal, Z. It wasn't personal, Jen. I would reach out and touch if I could.
I know, and let me tell you something. You're a character. I'm so thankful you're not here anymore, because every time you would be like Bill or Trump, I'd be like, so.
You know, I've said time and again that, you know, Bush, without question, is the worst president of my lifetime. I still kind of maintain that for the most part. I thought that Clinton was very, very close. Without question, Bush on the foreign policy side, Clinton on the domestic policy side. He had the five. He had the five. He had NAFTA. I had NAFTA. I had normal trade relations with China. I had the crime bill. I had the Telecom Act. And my coup de grace, I repealed Glass-Steagall. The fact that Glass-Steagall has not been reinstituted since the crash.
Well, what does that tell you?
The thing, all of these are Project 2020, or 20. Right. Did you know that I think it was Project 1990 or whatever it was from the Heritage Foundation.
Yeah.
Is why Bill Clinton repealed Glass-Steagall. You have all these liberals saying Trump is going to do Project 2025. Have you heard of this? I'm like, yes, Heritage Foundation has been doing this for 30 years and they've succeeded in almost all of their goals by now. And Democrats and Republicans have given it to them on a silver platter. Here's the thing about ranking the presidents, which you were kind of getting at. I see where you're coming from, but here's how I feel about it. Each president adds scaffolding for the next. So Reagan set the stage so that Clinton could do all those things, so that he could repeal that, so that he could do that. Clinton set the stage by, you guys have seen Black Hawk Down. We know what he did in Croatia. We know what he did in Bosnia. We know that he was one of the first to push for the framework for the AUMF, which set the framework for everything. For everything that Bush pushed for in the Patriot Act. And so they set frameworks for each other. If you look back and if you follow Project whatever from the Heritage Foundation, you will see that every single president we have had has followed that project. So the Democrats were kind of telling on themselves, exposing Project 2025 this year as much as they did, because Biden did tons of what was in Project 2020. People just don't realize he did that. Every single president has laid the framework for them. We used to have almost tuition-free college. College was subsidized at 85% nationally. 85% was subsidized, so students only had to do like 11 to 15 to 20%. That's why we heard like our parent, if you had boomer parents and stuff like that. Mine never really went to college. Well, my mom went to college some, but they would say I worked, summer jobs to pay for college. That's why.
Right.
We had clinics. If you guys remember, you could go to the clinic for everything. Break your foot, you go to the clinic. It's free for most people. You need a tooth pulled, go to the clinic. You need braces, go to the clinic. They have a dentist there. You could go to a clinic and get seen for almost everything besides surgeries and emergencies you need to be in a hospital for. We had those. Those were gutted by Obama when he implemented the ACA, and by Bill Clinton when he cut the welfare programs. They all work together. There's no differentiation. They're all on the same track.
You just confirm what I'm saying. Like, that's the point. Like, when we sit there and pick and choose, this president was good because of this, and this one, timing is everything. I think anybody in that seat at that time representing empire is going to do what they're going to do, and anybody who wouldn't be able to get in that seat.
Did you see what happened to Jack? Did you see what happened to Bobby? I'm reading a really good book right now by a friend of Jen's that has not gotten a lot of traction as of yet.
Did you message him? He's excited to come on our show. You could text him.
Not yet, but I will, because I need to read it. And it's one of those long reads because it's very thorough and it's 300 pages. So it's, but it's important because so many of the problems that we have, they are systemic, but we know what the cause of it is. We need to recognize. It's about JFK and RFK against Zionist extremism.
It's about the period when they were trying to stand up to the lobby.
There is a reason to believe that one of the motivating factors behind why the CIA decided that the president of the United States needed to be removed is because if you're not going to play ball with the endless war machine, whether it is in Southeast Asia or whether it is what ended up transpiring in the Middle East, which ultimately came about in 1967, but everything had already been in motion for several years. One of the reasons they waited until LBJ was president, and this is again what gets into the very rabbit hole conspiracy theories about whether or not LBJ actually had a hand in JFK's assassination, is because if you look back in history, there has never been a president prior to LBJ, and maybe not one since, that was as pro-Israel as he was on an extreme level.
Yeah. And you had, I don't know if you've gotten, I don't want to give you spoilers, spoilers, whatever. It's history, but still, have you gotten to the part where the predecessor to AIPAC, JFK was actually going to force them to register as a foreign entity. And a few weeks before he was supposed to sign that document, it was done. All he had to do was sign it. That's when he was killed. Just a few weeks before he was supposed
and then they rebranded and regrouped, and they changed the formation, the basis of and changed their name and all this stuff so that they were sort of starting from scratch. The name of the book that he's talking about is called JFK and RFK's Secret Battle Against Zionist Extremism. And yeah, the documentary evidence, and it's by Ken McCarthy. So that's that's what he's reading now.
And I do think that this is just a long, arduous journey. And this is the thing about the progressive or the populist left movement that I would advise everyone in the chat to recognize, is that it has to be done another way. You will not break through in electoral politics. That doesn't mean that electoral politics should not be supported, but just understand what you're getting yourself into and where electoral politics you will have the greatest impact. And being strategic and recognizing who's capable of running and who isn't, who has the intestinal fortitude to handle this type of pressure and who isn't. Are people susceptible to the money and power that is what attracts people into politics?
You need to find people that aren't interested in that. And that's not easy to do in what we do.
Yes. And
there's great opportunity locally with those. I think 85% of seats were uncontested in Georgia. Like I said, 85% in Kentucky, something like 75% in Arkansas. All of these states used to be quote unquote blue. They're not deep red states. That's a mythology. It has never been true. They've always been populist states. They're quote unquote purple states. They lean left. They don't lean right. And so there's a lot of opportunity to run locally. And hell, that's where a lot of laws get passed anyway that actually impact your daily life. I think sometimes we get distracted with what is happening nationally at the federal level, which is also important. And you guys do a great job of covering Florida and also covering local elections. I know you guys brought a bunch of independents that were running and third-party people that were running state house seats and things like that. I think that's great because it's really important to focus also on what's going on in your backyard. And I think electorally, that's where I'm personally shifting my focus to, is helping people to run locally and that sort of thing. I'm just exhausted, y'all. Yeah. And I don't see electoral on a national level moving just yet, but I know that things need to move somewhere. And I know part of it is organizing, but unions are very limited. So we need to look at other ways too, such as co-ops, and we need to look at building up infrastructures for our own wealth gathering so that we can take care of each other. Because look, you know, I'm not a capitalist, but I'm also not as shallow to think that, you know, people shouldn't have a small business or shouldn't be a small business owner or something like that. I think that's so crazy when I hear people being like, oh, you own a, I don't know, you own a business that employs 3 people. Oh my gosh, you're so exploitative. Like, what are you talking about, dude?
Yeah, no.
I think co-ops are amazing. I think that you can have people that do home ownership cooperatives and things like that. There are all kinds of solutions out there and opportunities for people to work together to build up a better life and figure out a way. I don't know. I just think we need to start thinking outside of the box, because I feel like they have us looking toward politics so much and have us begging politicians because it keeps us distracted from all those other solutions.
Exactly.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
No, I think it's not going to come from electoral politics. I think electoral politics is a facade. I don't think it's real. We don't have an actual, even functioning democratic republic. We already know that it is only the will of like the 0.1% that gets met through any sort of policy and legislation. The majority of people do not have representation. So what is the point? I think that unfortunately it needs to get a lot worse before it gets better. I think it's going to get more violent. And I think that people need to just be prepared for that, because they have made all other avenues of change impossible. You've created an electoral process where the Democratic Party feels okay to not have a primary. You have a party that doesn't support the entire premise of democracy right there. They have super delegates. Like, what kind of absurd shit is this? So when you look at this and you realize that really they're not listening to a thing we're saying that way, then they go and stifle our First Amendment rights and start shutting down protesting and creating cop cities to stifle dissent and to be prepared. All of those things are signs of impending violence that is coming our way. And that is all that they are doing to sort of help things along. They're just building wider moats and creating urbanized cop warfare centers. That's what they're doing to prepare for what's coming, because they know that electoral politics is not going to get us anywhere. And that is the truth. So I do think to some extent it's a waste of time. I do. And at this point, that we just need to like let things fall where they may. But you are right. This is going to come from us helping ourselves. I totally believe in small sustainable communities. I believe in worker co-op, all of that. And none of those things will in any way be supported or facilitated by people that are basically on the payroll of capital. And that is our entire Congress. Anybody that is working for capital is not going to support us in having better lives for ourselves. So the solution cannot be found in DC. That is, our solution is not there. And it's unfortunate, because I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I do know that it's not coming from there.
Zeynab, can't thank you enough for coming on as always. Keep the Christmas tree looking nice and pretty. I think having especially when it's cold. I don't know if it's like that in South Florida.
You guys want to see my 2 favorite ornaments before you go?
I do. Yes, I do need to see your 2.
Actually, they're not my favorite. My mom's handmade ornaments are my favorite, but these are funny. Let's see. My mom's an artist. She's amazing.
I'd be such a good Gentile if I had a tree. I really would. I'd be such a good shiksa. I would do a really pretty tree. I really would. I'm just saying. Oh, look at that.
It's T-Rex.
I love a T-Rex.
And
Bigfoot. Bigfoot. Nice. Sasquatch.
We're a little weird around here, but
no, I think that's awesome. I love that.
But thank you guys for having me. It was
Absolutely.
great.
Thanks for coming on
and hear from you guys. It's been a while, and I love the show, and I've been telling people to come check it out. So
good. I appreciate that. We're growing. We're moving.
We are. We've crossed a little bit of a threshold, and we're excited, and hopefully we'll continue to grow. Guys, Zayna's links are in the description, so please make sure you follow, and we will be in touch.
All right. Bye, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Z.
Bye.
Always great to chat. And of course, it's been a very productive evening, but
it's been a productive evening. And so for people who are new, if you are new here, welcome.
Absolutely.
We are, and I did see somebody in the chat say about us going early. We are going to be doing 7 o'clock
on Thursdays regularly.
on Thursdays regularly now.
We got up to 122, I think, live viewers this evening. So what that tells me is that so far, and again, we did not take a boost from status quo. So Lord knows if we did, we might have been in the 250 person.
I don't think he wasn't live. I mean, he was out. He had the camera guy was out at the protest, but I don't think Jordan did a stream.
May not
earlier today. He did a little something earlier today, but he didn't do a stream at 5. I don't think.
So no, the channel is definitely growing, and I think it's safe to say already right off the bat that we do get better numbers. We'll hold on with that. We do get better numbers on at 7 p.m. than we do at 9 p.m. I do think if you guys would agree with that, let us know if you think that makes sense. But so far, that's what we're seeing. So big shout out to Joseph D. Thank you so much for becoming a YouTube member. Obviously, a big shout out again to Mario. For Jen, thank you, Jen, for having the courage to challenge what's her name Schultz platform.
What's her face?
What's her face?
Thank you, Chromium. Well, this is why I pulled this up in the beginning. I know, yeah.
Highlighting my comments to KB and Senator Nina Turner and Pedro buying an I don't need to buy no mask. I just come on here, and if you close your eyes, you will know it's really me. Sajid, thank you for the $5. Let Trump and Musk ruin the economy so the country can wake up and vote for real social democrats, not the fake AOC or MSNBC types.
Well, yeah, that's the point, is that we have to hit rock bottom. And the only way that happens is, unfortunately, more people suffering. And that's we're
not that far from it, to be honest.
This is what I tell people. Be thankful for those of you that live in the Capitol. Because that's the privilege I have, is that I get to live in the Capitol. It doesn't mean that the Hunger Games isn't happening. It means that I am just in a safer spot than the other people. Now, in my dreams, I want to escape. I want to go to District 13, and I want to participate in the revolution. So while I am in the Capitol and appreciative, this is not where the problem is going to get solved from. It's going to get solved from District 13.
Definitely agree with you, Ronwell. Thank you for the $2. Eisenhower's farewell speech is certainly one of the greatest, if not the greatest, we've ever seen. And it's still as impactful then as it was back in 1961. Dave L., thank you so much for the $5. Marlon Perkins is a class traitor. His assistant, Jim, too.
Can I at least run patron banners?
Yeah, you do whatever you want. Just want to make sure that we acknowledge all of our wonderful support.
Of course.
Chip is correct. The empire is declining. It is inevitable. You can't look around at what's going on right now and think that this is normal or that it's ever going to get any better. It's clearly not. Like, that's the thing. Is it possible that Trump really did orchestrate the ceasefire? Yes, but I would think that the general consensus for most people is, okay, he got the ceasefire, but at what cost?
Well, we don't know that yet. We don't know that yet, but I have a suspicion. I have a sneaking suspicion it's at the expense of at least the West Bank.
Sajid, thank you again for the $5. Zeynab is on point, bringing back the small business culture and forget the right-wing entrepreneurial culture. I definitely agree with that.
Yes.
It is obsessed with hustle culture, hence why Trump has already made it clear that he is I'm going to be the greatest crypto president of all time. If you think that's the solution, you are so fucked beyond words. I can't even.
I still don't understand crypto. It's one of those things for me. I don't want to.
It's not a hard asset. You can't touch it.
I don't understand what that means. And here's the thing. I don't care to. So I do not have enough brain capacity to take in shit that is not important to me. And that is not important to me.
Yeah.
So I cannot make the space.
Guys, if you're ever thinking about investing, take it from me. Only invest, in my opinion. You don't have to, I'm not an expert, but I think I know a thing or two about investing. Always invest in hard assets. In my opinion, real estate, particularly commercial real estate, we have a serious housing crisis in this country. So when you think about how difficult it is to invest in multifamily, for example, that is a really big problem. But you know what? We need industrial spaces. We need retail storefronts. We need office space. We need hotels. There's a lot of things that you can invest in because, again, you can touch it. And then, of course, you have things like precious metals like gold and silver.
Judge Nat always promotes the gold.
Mm-hmm. And if you really want to invest,
I can get a sponsorship from the gold people. I'll promote it too. We would love sponsors. By the way, if anybody's interested in being a sponsor, we're talking to somebody. I just don't know exactly what it is, and then I haven't heard back. But
I want to give the shout out one more time to Ronwell Nogales. Thank you so much, as always, for being here, and of course the $5. Thomas Massey and Cynthia McKinney spoke out against AIPAC, and I love them for it, and we love them for it as well. What I will say. There is we got Zeynab. Thank you.
Zeynab. That's so nice. Always shout out to Colin.
Always a shout out to Colin because he is our MVP, just as he is.
So Colin's going to get a raise this year,
as he so richly deserves.
I know Colin's going to get a raise.
If you're concerned about our MVP getting a raise, the thing that you could do to help us get there is go to patreon.com/generational change for as little as $5 a month. You can become a supporter of our small but mighty channel. We very much appreciate anybody and everybody who would like to contribute there. And remember, less gets taken out when it is done through Patreon than if it's done through YouTube.
I don't know. I just know that it's a different company. I can't promote one over the other. It's just, I don't know why. I honestly don't know. I don't know, but other than Google is not our friend, I know that Patreon doesn't try to shadow ban me.
Colinello, I am going to disagree with you. He is absolutely a capitalist, no two ways about it. But he is somebody who, while he is a libertarian, he actually if you follow him and you really understand where Massey is coming from, do you know that Massey has the cleanest carbon footprint out of any member of Congress?
He's off the grid. He's
literally off the grid.
Yeah.
He lives off the grid on 50 acres of land in rural Kentucky.
Yeah.
He walks the
walk. He walks the walk.
He is the real deal. And you know what? His votes speak volumes because he always votes principally when it comes to our civil liberties and endless war. And
he's the only one speaking up on so many things. It's unbelievable.
100%. So, hey, but you know what, Colinello? The difference is that we welcome your criticism even if you don't like Massey. We don't believe in this world of, oh my God, we've got to protect AOC. You don't have to protect
I don't have a team. I don't have a team. I am teamless. So I go with whoever has the best idea to solve the problem that we're dealing with in the moment that we're dealing with it. That's how this is supposed to work.
Ronwell, you have been on fire this evening. Thank you so much for the $10. Heard of the TikTok ban? Never used TikTok since my young idol was banned there. Even I think it's unconstitutional. Don't like TikTok, don't use it. It's Thomas Massey and Rand Paul are consistent.
Exactly.
And we agree 1,000%.
We want to do a thing talking about this TikTok ban. We've talked about it in the past. We spoke about it when it first came up in the 6 month or whatever the deadline was put that it had to be divested from Chinese interests. I mean, we spoke about it then. As someone who's not on social media and have never TikToked. So it's not something that impacts my life, but I am vehemently against anything that is, one, anti-China. Okay, so let's be clear. This is also another means for China-phobia and building up consent to have issues with China. That's another problem I have with the anti-TikTok thing. But also, I'm just against censorship in general. But the fact that they're okay with it if it's not owned by China, are you freaking kidding me? Yeah. Everything that comes in this country is from China. If they wanted to kill us, they'd be poisoning all our shit anyway. Why the hell? But it isn't because it's China. Their issue is that they don't want young people seeing what's going on in Palestine.
No, they don't want well, that's part of it. But the other part of it is the people in power, the oligarchic infrastructure that exists at the very top in this society actually thinks that you're going to be able to censor your way to dealing with China overtaking us economically. It is not possible. It will not work. Do you know what you do when a country literally supersedes you in almost every conceivable way economically? You compete with them. The fact that we do not have a high-speed rail system in the United States is an indictment on us, not on China, because
all we excel at is might makes right. So how we win is by bullying. We no longer do diplomacy. We just bully everybody. And the rest of the world has had it with us. And truthfully, I'm so tired of people talking shit about China. What the hell have they done to us?
They're jealous. And that doesn't, and here's the thing.
No seriousness. How can someone please explain to me how China has hurt us? I don't understand.
And don't get me wrong, I don't think China is an innocent angel. I don't. I think
That's
there's a lot of
things. Argument. That's not what I'm saying. But why are they a threat to us? Why
China is a threat to us in the sense that our economy is going to suffer mightily as a result because of the choices we make in terms of how we deal with them.
That's what I mean. It's not because of them. No. They didn't do anything to us. China doesn't have warships in the Gulf of Mexico like we have in the Sea of China. We have ships up their ass 24/7, and they're the threat. That's what I understand. Yes, they are a threat economically, but that's not because of them. That's because we're fucking stupid. And that's because we've done stupid shit and thrown money away and not invest in our own selves and not help our own people. That's on us. They pulled an entire country out of poverty in faster time than most civilizations have existed.
You could thank me for that, for passing that legislation.
We are still dragging our knuckles on the floor here. So I am so sick of it. China is not the problem. We are the problem.
We are the problem.
We are the global problem. Good for China, good for BRICS. Honestly, I want China to succeed more than us because I want people to see that it is not might makes right and not weapons that is going to create leadership and does not help and does not solve problems. If China succeeds and is better than us economically and is able to dominate in that way, then they earned it, but they didn't do it by bullying their way around the world with military might. No. And that I want to see that works better.
On top of everything else, therein lies the sin of NAFTA and what ultimately became normal trade relations with China. And think about how bad things would have been if Hillary won instead of Trump in 2016. They absolutely would have passed the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And there's no telling how further into the sea we would be sinking at this point economically, because that trade deal would have substantially benefited China and screwed us in the process. You see, that's always been the problem. The biggest reason why China has been able to succeed over the last generation is because they took advantage of our greed. That's what they did.
They watched us basically throw away our entire economy except for military, hand it over to them. They took it willingly.
Absolutely.
They built up their economy. They're building up infrastructure in places like Africa, and they laugh at us. We're like toddlers to them. That's what I think. We're like petulant children that we have to just run out of steam before they can put us down for a nap, because these people cannot take us seriously. Honestly, I don't. And I think that I'm concerned about what's going to happen with Taiwan. I think that
Very concerned. You guys want to be concerned. You want to talk about saber rattling of the worst kind?
Yeah.
That's another thing. Do I think that Trump is actually going to end the war in Ukraine? Yeah, he probably is. And you know what? We're totally going to get Taiwan.
And I don't think so. And I'm going to tell you, here's the thing, though. What's the guy's name over there? Who is that? Xi
Jinping.
Ping. Right. Trump respects people like that. Whether or not, whatever, let me tell you, he respects people.
He respects strong arm leaders. He does.
And I think that he recognizes, he might not say it, but he definitely knows what's going on.
Colinello, I don't know how close you are up on current events, but maybe you've heard of BRICS. It's not about China. It's about China's alliances with India, with Russia, with Brazil, and South Africa. And there are several other countries that are joining them now. And they are going to get to a point where they could actually get off of the US dollar.
Well, here's the thing. As of right now, my understanding from when we spoke about after the summit happened in Russia, the first real big BRIC summit, they are not in the process of creating a currency. They are not doing that. That is not what BRICS is doing. What BRICS is doing is they want to, and I know, hold for it, it's crazy. They want to trade in their own currencies. They do not want our bullshit dollars anymore that are based on nothing. They are tired of being basically economically hijacked by the bullies of the universe, us. The sanctions are crippling on so many of these countries. When we look at countries and we want to say, oh, look at Venezuela, they're a mess. They can't. Yeah, They're a mess because we have put so many sanctions on them that they can't have things that they need. Same as Cuba. And there's like 100 other countries that we have sanctions on. And you know what? The rest of the world is sick of us bullying them. They are.
And this is exactly why, David, I agree with you. I have no doubt that the conditions in China are terrible. I am sure. Again, we know that slave labor exists because of our greed. They take advantage of the fact that we want shit like this. We want it every year, and we want it for pennies on the dollar. And the only way you get that
is not promoting China like that. Yeah, I'm not saying China doesn't have human rights issues. I'm not saying that. I am not a ping apologist.
This is where base Chad is correct. China bullies their neighbors plenty, but they care more about their country and their power than American leaders who are sole concerned with selling out their crumbling up. Could not have said it better.
They care about themselves. They care about their people in that way. And I do understand that they have horrible working conditions. However, I also believe that if our country wanted to actually properly treat workers and have requirements that people we trade with and global partners have to have a baseline of sort of like worker conditions, then that would set the standard. So we choose to have a country like China do that because that benefits us financially as well. So
it's not just a question of Chinophobia or
it is though. It is Chinophobia.
But the issue with India is the alliance that is being formed between China, Russia, and India. That is
good
very
for them
real.
Because they make up the majority of the world's population. And yet we have the worst environmental impact of all of it. And they make up the majority of people. They are sick of our shit. They are sick of our shit. They are sick of our worthless dollar. And they want to trade in their own currency.
Could you blame them?
How dare we even question somebody's like prerogative to do so? The level of arrogance is just off the chart. I just honestly, this is why I root for them. I root for China because I cannot stand the audacity that we have to be annoyed when other countries dare to do things in their own interest. We have warships up their ass. I just don't think people like we constantly have our stuff all over the place.
I agree. Now, I do not root for China. However, I do believe, again, it's not a question of rooting. It's a question of recognizing.
I root against empire is what I do.
Rooting against empire.
And that's what that is. I root against empire because enough already. And if right now China is offering an alternative to the rest of the world that is more appealing, then kudos.
Big shout out to DW. Thank you so much for becoming a YouTube.
It's not DWS.
Well, no, you're not that lucky. But 2 in 1 night. And of course, our wonderful supporter and friend, Arlene Chambers. Thank you for the $5. So what if China is creating another currency?
Yes.
That's their business. Sick of the U.S. men. That's correct.
That's my
their
point.
Choice.
That is my whole point.
It's none of our business to control that. Make America great. Period.
Ever. Right. Just make America
so
great.
So when you say make America great again, since when? America has been great for a select few people. At most 20%, maybe 30 at its best. But this has never been a majority great nation. It just hasn't been. You want to make America great? Start doing the things that you need to do. Otherwise, America's going to go like Israel.
Well, America is Israel. They're the same thing. Israel is not Israel. They are not, but like, please, they are an extension of us, period. I agree completely with Larry Wilkerson. I think he is spot on with this. I do not see them as a separate entity. This whole thing could be over if we wanted it, but we don't want it to be over because we do not like Palestinians. We don't. They're inconveniently in the way of shit that we want to do over there.
No, there's too many. This is like, we're at a point now where the empire is, we are on a collision course with an iceberg. And everyone who is at the helm is drunk off of their own power. And they really think that there is no way to end this. Or you end up like somebody like Charles Koch. Or you end up like somebody like Miriam Adelson. You end up like the people that know that their time on this earth is limited and they don't really care anymore. They really don't, because they know that they're not long for this world. And there's one thing about certain members of the elder population.
Boomers.
They have a great deal of resentment for youth because they know that their lives are ahead of them and their lives are almost over. And there is a resentment and a hatred that they have.
I know why. Not always. That's not always it. I know plenty of happy older people that are like, you know.
I'm talking about people who have lived through this world, who have obtained the highest levels of money and power, but they can't take it with them. And that's the thing that really scares them.
Is Rarica.
No matter how much money and power you have, when you're dead and you have nothing. You hope and pray that there's something past this life. But you know what? Odds are there isn't. So
when you're dead, you're dead. There's no, you're like being very doomy. When you're dead, it's all over.
I'm saying, how do you want to be remembered? What legacy do you want to leave? Do you want to leave a legacy where people literally can't wait to go and spit on your grave? Or do you want to be remembered as somebody that they actually want to build statues for and talk about how revered you were in your time? There's a reason people still talk about George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Abraham Lincoln.
Yes, because the patriarchy created history books based on a whole bunch of lore and bullshit, and they shoved it down our throats to brainwash us and gaslight us for eternity. And so that's why.
I don't agree 100% at all.
But you haven't read Margaret's book.
What I'm saying is there is something to be said for, listen, you could always argue that there's always going to be things that they did wrong, juxtaposed with the things that they did right.
I don't know that, though. I don't know that
Here's
anymore.
what I do know. I know that somebody like Miriam Adelson, as bad as Elon Musk is, as bad as Jeff Bezos is, Miriam Adelson is the most dangerous person alive right now. This is a person who gave $100 million to Trump because she is a religious fanatic who actually welcomes the rapture in her lifetime if she can get it. This whole idea about Israel being the whatever the fuck it is that she imagines it to be, or any of these people imagine it to be. You can't take it with you, and you will not be able to do so. And she, as much as anybody, should be receiving the scrutiny that she so richly deserves. When we talk about things being done outside of electoral politics,
why is she she is not the problem. The onus is not on her. The problem and the onus is on the person taking the money and doing the bidding.
But they all do, all of them.
Exactly, but that's who the problem is. That's like saying that the problem is people who wanted to put cameras on lobbyists. Lobbyists are not the problems. Lobbyists isn't the problems. The people that take money from them and become their whores, those are the problems. And those are the people that work for us. Trump is the person that essentially answers to us, not Miriam Adelson. She is not the problem. The problem, you want to, like you say, you don't hate the player, you hate the game. She is just doing what it is that we're allowing to be done. That is not the problem. That's what I think. The problem is him, and that he took it, that he's going to go with it, and that he appointed a whole bunch of tools to administer it. That's the problem.
We hope you guys have enjoyed this ranting back and forth.
Oh, I'm in rare form. I'm so angry. Like, I have so much rage. It's just ridiculous.
Well, how could you not have it? It's almost
I can't even contain myself. I have so much rage. I'm so angry, and I'm so
guys, if
angry.
you want to know why Jen is in such rage form, or
I'm in
raging form, this is a good reason. The University of Miami Hillel.
It's Hillel. It's Hillel.
Hosted a dynamic conversation and Q&A with Mr. Gansby, Israel's former Minister of Defense and Chairman of the National Unity Party. He covered October 7th, the war hostages, U.S.-Israel ties, U.S. support, and Middle East challenges. Yeah, isn't that sweet? You got to love a place that's only a good 40 minutes from where you live that is hosting a war criminal.
Well, we have an infestation problem here. I say it every time. South Florida has a serious infestation problem. And it's amazing to me how people who live in other places with other immigrants and border issues and all of that, you know what? You ain't seen shit, so you have to live with a whole bunch of Israelis. Then you have not experienced immigration crisis until you have to be in a Pilates class with a whole bunch of Israelis.
Yeah. Well, luckily I don't have to deal with that anymore. Sorry, Jim. But good luck.
It's brutal. They're everywhere here. They're everywhere.
Well, I think Chad may be onto something. But of course, as we said, Please get over to patreon.com/generational change. Become a member if you can. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to share.
We have fun things coming up.
We do.
Right? We have a lot of good things coming up.
So on Inauguration Day and MLK Day, we actually have scheduled Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro. I know this is somebody Jen has wanted to get on the podcast.
I have wanted to talk to him, and I just saw him on Katie again, and it reminded me that.
Shout out to Katie. Thank you for sending the contact info. We connected, and the rabbi is going to be here.
Love being able to present any side of Judaism that is correct, that is righteous. And I just think it's really important now to, especially with the levels of anti-Semitism that are being spread because of what is going on in the Zionism. It is so important to see Jewish leaders and rabbis that are true to the faith, and people that are true to the faith do not support a Zio state. They just don't.
Nope. And that's why, to bring the whole conversation full circle, that's why Max Blumenthal's message to Tony Blinken today was so powerful, because Max is Jewish like Jen. And Tony Blinken is a Zion Nazi. Do not ever let them own it again. Ever again. There should never be any coming back from this.
No.
It should be history making. It should be set in stone. And that is that. To me, apparently.
Man with long last name, Shapiro has some weird takes, but I enjoy what he said. To be honest, I don't know his takes on so many things. I don't. He is so knowledgeable on the history of Zionism and on the interconnectedness of Judaism and Zionism, and how Zionism has so negatively impacted Judaism throughout the world. And that's what he's really coming on to talk about. So I don't know what his other.
Okay. So this is also a seminal moment. This has been a very good show. This has been a really tremendous, incredible show. One of the best shows we've ever done. I think you're doing a great job.
And we're also getting soon. Who else is coming on soon? We have Cenk is coming on.
Cenk Uygur is going to come on here and tell us all about how the status quo still rules. No, I don't think he may be saying that, but you never know.
Yeah. So we have Cenk coming. We have some good guests coming up.
Yeah, still trying to get Jamie Peck on the schedule. We got a lot of people. We've got a lot of wonderful people, really great people.
Did you reach out to David Sirota?
I did. I haven't heard from him. I connected with Max a little earlier. Max, of course, was doing his show with Aaron Mate earlier today. He was completely tapped out. Going to try to get him on very, very soon, possibly next week, which would obviously be great. Max Blumenthal.
Oh, Max. Yes. I'd love to talk to Max. I haven't spoken to Max in years.
This is a seminal moment, and we'll highlight it because it comes from Rumble, our first Rumble support from SB3 supporter, $5. Max's father is Sidney Blumenthal, former aide my former aide. Yeah, he certainly was. Makes Max even more awesome, in my opinion. And we agree. It does. Yeah.
Max is someone that I've met in person a couple of times. So he is somebody that I've actually sat down with and had good conversation with. And he's very decent people.
Yeah.
He really is. He's very decent people. And I'm not going to get into whatever the politics that go on behind the scenes, blah, 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 blah. He's in it for the cause, and he really gives a shit, and he does his research.
He does.
And I respect that. He does the work. There is no doubt. He does the research.
He is a real journalist, if there ever was. And that's important. Smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things we ask you to do. We love you all. We'll see you Monday.
Bye, y'all.